news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Good morning. This is Tuesday, the 25th of May. I'm Jason White. Right now in Ottawa, some light rain and overcast sky, 15 degrees. It's 16 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Thousands of people who got the AstraZeneca vaccine are getting their second dose earlier than expected. Our Jamie Pulfer with the latest on the COVID vaccine rollout.
This week in Ontario, second doses of AstraZeneca with eligibility for people who received a first dose in mid-March, specifically between the 10th and the 19th. The province is looking to use up its stockpile with some 300,000 doses about to expire, some within days. Now, the second doses are happening after 10 weeks instead of the recommended 12 weeks, but health experts say that the efficacy is still strong. Appointments can be made at the pharmacy or at the doctor's office where you got your first shot. Now, when it comes to vaccine delivery in the country this week, we're going to get about 600,000 doses coming from Pfizer, a little bit less than we saw after that ramped up delivery last week, all ahead of the long weekend. I'm Jamie Pulfer.
City News Time at 9:01. Quebec is joining several other provinces today in expanding its COVID-19 vaccination campaign, allowing anyone aged 12 and up to be booked online for a shot. Ontario has been registering young people for the Pfizer shot through its own provincial online portal since Sunday. Quebec hopes to get all teens their first shot next month and to have them fully vaccinated around the time school starts in September. 8 separate fires last night because of improper use of fireworks. The first was a grass fire near Hunt Club in Riverside under the bridge there around 9 o'clock last night. Caused lots of smoke. Ottawa Fire says the area burned was less than a square meter and was out in a half hour. In total, crews extinguished 4 grass fires, 1 fence that was on fire, and 2 garbage bins on fire because of fireworks. Now, the 8 does not include a house hit by fireworks on Demorier Avenue near Pinecrest and the Queensway just before midnight. People were inside the house at the time, but the fire did not spread into the home. U.S. President Joe Biden will meet privately today at the White House with members of George Floyd's family. 1 year ago today, Floyd, who is black, died on a Minneapolis street with a white police officer's knee on his neck. Biden called on the U.S. Congress to pass police reform legislation so he could sign it by today, but negotiations are continuing on Capitol Hill. Belarus faces more reprisals for their forced diversion of a passenger jet to arrest a journalist. ABC's Tom Rivers reports.
New sanctions are coming, including a ban on the use of the 27-nation bloc's airspace and airports. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
The European Council decided that there will be additional sanctions on individuals that are involved in the hijacking, but this time also on businesses and economic entities that are financing this regime.
EU's also calling on the International Civil Aviation Organization to start a probe into what some are labeling state terrorism. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
City News Time 9:03. German customs officials are revealing the story of how 4.5 kilos of cocaine ended up in the waste bins of a fruit logistics company. Staff at the company near Munich threw more than $1 million worth of cocaine in the trash, not realizing the packages they'd found inside banana crates were drugs. Police discovered the drugs were dumped by subcontractors who didn't give any thought to the packages they found wrapped in tape inside crates that were shipped from Ecuador. Let's get the details on our forecast now, and here's weather specialist Denise Andriacci.
Mainly cloudy with the risk of storms today and a gusty southwest wind. Highs near 29, the overnight low near 20. Risk of thunderstorms again for Wednesday with scattered showers about 5 to 10 millimeters expected through Smiths Falls and Ottawa. Highs near 25 degrees, still slightly muggy, and then temperatures will cool for Thursday. Your daytime high today near 29.
A mostly cloudy sky right now in Ottawa, 15 degrees. It's 16 in Smiths Falls. I'm Jason White. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Good, bad, or complicated.
There's no news in Ottawa and the Valley he won't talk about.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And just like that, the May 2-4 long weekend is over. And now it's back to life and back to reality. Good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. Hope you had a great long weekend, and thanks for giving us part of your day. We're going to be diving right into it. All the hot news stories of the day with your help and with the help of our guests. I mean, it's a Tuesday that feels like a Monday, but Professor Ian Lee is here every Tuesday. Today is no exception. The professor is a longtime sparring partner of mine, Associate Professor of Management at Carleton University's Sprott School of Business. So much to talk about. We have a red-hot housing market that the Bank of Canada refuses to do anything about. That was the topic of a blistering editorial in the Globe and Mail over the weekend. We have a powerful city committee that is getting, hammered hard from the left, from the right, for its decision to award a $2.9 million grant to Mark Motors. Yeah, that's still in the news. There's going to be a protest at the Porsche dealership today, 5:30 this afternoon. $2.9 million grant to build a new Porsche dealership at the corner of Montreal Road and Saint Laurent. New dealership going to cost, you know the story, $17 million for the new building, 20 new employees. But there's a lot of people, and they're not impressed with that decision by the FedCo committee. And it's not just all the usual suspects, the lefties. The professor as well, not a fan. And the Ottawa Sun, not a fan, not impressed, according to the editorial in the Ottawa Sun today. Speaking of the Sun, my goodness, you should read Brian Lilly's story this morning for the Ottawa Sun. Heck of a scoop by my old friend and colleague about a guy named Chris Sky. Chris Sky is not his real name. His real name is Christopher Sakaccia. He's one of these people who, they see the anti-mask movement, the anti-lockdown movement, the anti-vaxxer movement. That is their meal ticket. Okay, that is their ticket out of obscurity and into notoriety. I mean, seriously, who ever heard of Christopher Sakaccia or somebody named Chris Sky a year and a half ago, right? Nobody. And now he has his, this little army of followers, and he goes to all the rallies, and you can bet he has a sizable following on social media, because some people, if they can't be famous, they're more than happy being notorious or infamous. But he is accused of crossing a line, and this is very serious. I do wonder why he is not spending some time at a provincial remand center right now. He is accused of threatening to kill the Premier of Ontario. A witness alleges that he said he wanted to shoot Premier Ford in the head, and that he wanted to kill every other premier in Canada. That is all according to a front page story from Brian Lilly in the Sun this morning. This person, Chris Sky, not his real name, it's Sakaccia, also accused of trying to run over a police officer. So anyway, he turns himself into the police, and he's let go on $5,000 bail, and there's all kinds of conditions. Okay, you're out on bail, but you must abide by these conditions. One of the conditions is that he stay in Markham, Ontario, his hometown of Markham, Ontario. And yet Brian Lilly reports this morning in the Sun that this guy, Chris Sky, he's been here, there, and everywhere, attending and leading anti-lockdown, anti-masker rallies all over the country. He was in Vancouver at one of these loony protests just on Sunday, just making a mockery of bail court. So look, I'm no expert. I didn't go to law school, but isn't that a breach? Yeah, I would think so. Breach of bail conditions, right? Breach of bail conditions. Seriously, accused of threatening to kill the premier and the other premiers, accused of trying to run over a police officer, let go on $5,000 bail. You must stay in Markham. And there he is at a rally in Vancouver. What gives? What gives? Wake up. Justice system. Where are the cops? I would be just fine if say a breach charge was added to that, and, let him go and see the judge again. Another story that will follow with some interest today, maybe the Prime Minister will be asked about this. The Prime Minister is doing his 11:30 thing again today. We always look forward to that around here. The 11:30 Justin Trudeau news conference. I don't think we've missed one yet. Tom Blackwell has a report this morning for the National Post about a company that we've talked about before, Providence Therapeutics out of Calgary, Alberta. Very interesting story this morning. The National Post reports Providence thinks it may be close to having a world beater. The best mRNA vaccine ever developed. And that would be despite how little interest, and this is kind of the news hook, despite how little interest the Canadian government has ever shown in this company. It has been, for Providence Therapeutics, this little outfit out of Calgary, it has been very much on its own. Moderna, for example, I've raised this before. Moderna, they had Project Warp Speed under the Trump administration. And the Trump administration, the U.S. government, put $1 billion into Moderna to speed up its research, to advance its research of mRNA vaccines. Moderna, nobody had ever heard of Moderna. Moderna hadn't even had a single product ever approved by the Food and Drug Administration in the United States. Its vaccine for COVID-19 is the very first one, but the Trump administration put $1 billion into that company. Providence has always said, the founder of the company has always said, we're about a month behind them. Our research, we're probably behind them by about a month at Moderna. According to this morning's news report, National Post, Tom Blackwell, the Canadian government has put a grand total of $10 million into Providence Therapeutics. $10 million versus $1 billion for Moderna. You could imagine what Providence could have done with $1 billion? Now, the cynic would ask, hey, is that because it's based in Calgary? You can be the judge of that. It's in Calgary and not Laval or Montreal or Lévis or Quebec City. It's in Calgary. Who knows? But it's also going to go it alone on the manufacturing side. It is partnering on that side with Emergent Biosolutions, which has a plant in Winnipeg, and if that name sounds familiar, that is the company that made news because it ruined 15 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which has nothing to do with this facility in Winnipeg, but it makes you wonder why the Trudeau government is willing to spend $200 million to build a brand new mRNA vaccine finishing facility in Ontario that's not going to be open for another 3 years. They already have one in Winnipeg. You know what, though? In the end, it could end up being, despite all the government money that's been sloshed around on vaccines with very little to show for it domestically, from Quebec City to Montreal, this little outfit from Calgary is going to beat them all. Did you watch any golf this weekend? I did. It was the Pga Championship. That is one of golf's major championships, and it was remarkable on a couple of fronts. First, because Phil Mickelson won the tournament at the age of 50, giving all of us 50-year-olds reason to hope. Phil, way to go. Oldest major champion ever. And second, and I found it remarkable and still weird to see, crowds. Big crowds. This tournament was being held at a resort in South Carolina, and it was packed with people. Huge crowds. No masks. And it was kind of carnival atmosphere at times. So I watched golf in the afternoon, and then in the evening, I would turn on the NHL playoff hockey games in the evening. Habs, Leafs, Jets, Oilers. And what is it in Canada? Same old, same old, same old, same old. Piped in fake fans, no fans in the stands. And I couldn't help but think, looking at golf, wondering, when is that going to be us? When will that be us? When's it going to be our turn to kind of go a little wild and crazy? We know now it's not going to be the May 2-4 long weekend. That's over and done with. So look at your calendars, ladies and gentlemen, and you tell me, when's it going to be? Canada Day? August long weekend? Labor Day? Thanksgiving? Halloween? Christmas? Will it even be this year? Given that barely 5% of the Canadian population is fully vaccinated against COVID-19, I mean fully vaccinated, not this half the population is half vaccinated. Dippity-doo-dah, dippity-day. You see, in South Carolina, where they had this tournament, 33% of that population of that state is fully vaccinated. That's why they're out there partying without any masks on. And you see on television at the hockey games, nobody can go to the hockey games in Canada because we're under lockdown. When will life get back to normal? Whatever normal is going to be from here on in. When will people be able to go to a big party or a sporting event, rock concert? Not even think about it, not even worry about it. No mask, no fear. When? Pick a holiday on the calendar. And that's how we'll do the talkback hour today between 10 and 11 at 750-1310, because the May 2-4 is over and we are still under lockdown. When's it our turn to go a little wild and live a little? This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
Papa Jack was started 14 years ago, really by accident more than anything. A friend of mine had bought a grocery store. A popcorn machine was in there. He didn't want it. I ended up by buying it. My family thought I was nuts. When I first said, come and pick up this popcorn machine, my son said, what the heck for? I won't use the exact words. But anyway, we started, and it just kept on growing and growing. But at the time, I was the only one selling popcorn in Ottawa. But we persevered as a family, and here we are. So it's been very, very rewarding for my family and myself. And to see our brand name, Papa Jack, and Papa Jack came out of, I wanted something that was going to be very bilingual. So Papa, and then in Ontario, everybody called me Jack, even though my name is Jacques. In Quebec, it's fine, it's Jacques, but in Ontario, it was always Jack. So we married the two together, Papa, Jack. With the store that we have on Thurston Drive, it basically, the factory's in the back. If you come into the store, you can see how the popcorn is being made during the week. So it adds an extra layer of, you can see the sanitation, you can see how we do it. It's not like making popcorn. Most people thought when I started this, I was making popcorn in my garage or in my basement. No, never did. It was started in this building, in the back of the building, and then we kept growing and growing until what we have now. My daughter and my son came up with a brilliant idea to do a fundraiser online. So basically all people have to do is to register here, and we give them a special code number. And with that code number, they tell their friends or their neighbors, everybody, to buy online from us with that code number. And then at the end of each period, could be 2 weeks, could be a month, then we'll pay them a 20% of all the businesses that we got through that code number. One thing I'd like to say is thank you to all the Ottawa people who have supported us and support local businesses. It sometimes people, they talk about buying locally. Now it becomes that much more important to buy locally, to support your local businesses, because not too many of them are going to survive this. We're fortunate that we're so far so good.
Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
George Floyd was murdered 1 year ago today. And our team here at Rogers Sports and Media is marking this day by presenting Remember 9/29. It is a powerful video celebrating the legacy of George Floyd. It features an ensemble of Black Canadians coming together, sharing their real-life perspectives on the Black experience. The video is exactly 9 minutes and 29 seconds in duration, a crucial reminder of the same duration George Floyd suffered on the ground as he was murdered. It was produced in collaboration with Tier Zero, a BIPOC creative agency and production company. The video is hosted at allinforequity.ca/Remember 929. And if you go there and watch the video, there's an opportunity for you to donate to the George Floyd Memorial Foundation and the Black Solidarity Fund. Here now is Remember 929.
Ignorance and power is the enemy of justice. And no longer can we stand for that which misrepresents us, pressing its knee on the windpipe from that which the voice of a people emanates so beautifully. Change is not what we see, but how we see it. To make real change and rearrange the structures keeping us in chains, we must change our minds through acts of love. We gotta be it. Let not the deaths of those that pass be in vain. Use all of the gifts that our ancestry claims to realize the dreams of those that died in the name of truth and light. Set out to guide us on the path that was paved in search of freedom and justice. And no, it's not a cop going to jail for murder.
If I must be honest with you, in Canada, they'll be like, oh, there's no racism, something, but they don't even understand it. Like, I'm constantly getting racially profiled, and I understand it because, you walk into a store, you just want to buy something. They're always, asking questions, when it's, creepy and they're just following you, oh, do you need help? No, I don't need help, thank you. I know what I'm getting. And they're just constantly following you, you realize that you're being targeted.
The Black community is not a monolith. Everybody has their own story and their own backgrounds that they can reflect on. So I think it's very important to acknowledge that before anything and moving forward.
Being cruel to people has just been normalized, and I don't get that. I don't get just how somebody can take a look at another group of people and be like, I don't like you just because of the way that you look. That's trash. That's trash to me. It really is.
Okay, police are friends. There's a facade Canadians as being these nice people, that we don't really have racism, but our whole nation was built on the slaughtering of Indigenous peoples. There's a continued denial based on our systems of oppression. And if we continue to deny it, then it makes it hard for those who are oppressed to name it.
Being in white spaces and talking about these things, it has been incredibly enlightening, and it's been incredibly hard.
Just hope that things will work out, that even our children and grandchildren may have a better setup than we have when we came here in 1966. They would look at you and then psych you out before they rent you a place.
fighting a long time, but the message is still the same. We're fighting for equality. We're fighting for an equal chance at living, achieving our dreams, being anything that we want. We're fighting for George Floyd.
We sat there and we watched and we held our breath, and it was tough for everybody. It's a collective trauma, and I think we're all just hoping that at some point we can release that breath.
When he got to the point where he was crying for his mother, I stopped breathing, because that's what mothers do for their sons, is they stop breathing so that they can breathe. I felt like, how could the world, because it was the world, be so inhumane to somebody? I didn't want to close my eyes that night after watching it, because I felt like I was going to be seeing my son and hearing my son. Picked up the phone and I called my son and I said, you don't even have to say anything. I just need to hear you breathing. I just need to know that you're okay, and I just need you to get home safe.
Bro. That's weird. I never get emotional like that, but thank you.
The most beautiful change has happened since George Floyd's tragic murder is the conversation has been busted wide open to the point where nobody can say they didn't know anymore. And so the knowledge is there if you want it, and it's undeniable.
In terms of the privilege of being black, is when you're black, you were loved before you were here. So no matter where you are, no matter what country, what ethnicity, if you were black, someone went through something for you to be here. And then you have that obligation to pay that forward to the next generation.
What is the dopest part about being black?
Well, how much time do you have? What isn't dope about being black?
I don't know where to start. I love black women. That's my weakness.
It comes to so many things. There is so much pride I have being part of black communities. We are out there and we're showing everyone that no matter what you throw at us, we're gonna come back.
I just like being black, you know? It's like I've been black my whole life, so, you know, like I obviously have to embrace it.
Is like just naturally being cool. You know, it's just the way you walk, the music you listen to, the history, and you know, just being more, I feel like black people in general are more connected to our culture, regardless if you have a Caribbean background, African background.
Literally anything that's good, black people either made it or made it cool. We're talking about fashion, we're talking about art, we're talking about food, we're talking about
swag, and I hate that word, but there's a certain energy, a certain vibe with just being black that I think comes with being this amazing skin color that I have.
Man, nobody makes lemonade out of lemons better than us. Literally, that's our history. Oxtail is fire. We make things that are amazing out of pieces of food or culture that other people discard. So we, better than anyone, take what the world gives us and makes it something so hot that the rest of the world wants it.
Oh, man. To me, being black in 2021 means duality. You're a master of duality. You're a master of finding the joy and the beauty in that experience. And you're also a master of being tired.
We also are the blueprint for activism, right? We stand at the forefront, we demand our rights from kingdom come.
The world feeds off our energy. And to be able to be growing up in that culture, immersing myself in that culture in all aspects, it's always given me a liberating feeling.
The dopest part about being Black is our resilience, our different shades, our hues, being strong people, coming from kings and queens, our legacy.
I'm someone that has a child of my own. Everything that he is seeing, what I surround him around, is what his future will be. All those Black men and women that he's surrounded with are all people that are so brilliant in what they do. I'm surrounded by them every day. Ironically enough, I'm surrounded by them right now, so it's very incredible.
If you look out in the garden, you don't see one color flowers. You see all different colors flowers. That's a beautiful garden, isn't it? So, just as we are different colors, different nationality, different language, that's a beautiful garden the Lord has created. So we got to learn to live and to grow, set examples for each other, and we'll get along. And you show the world that we're God's children. And it doesn't matter who we are, love. The greatest of all is love.
News in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
This is Tuesday, the 25th of May. Good morning, I'm Jason White. Right now in Ottawa, partly cloudy, 17 degrees. It's 17 in Smiths Falls as well. Here's what's making news this hour. Careless use of fireworks being blamed for 8 separate fires around the capital. The largest, a grass fire at Riverside and Hunt Club last night. The 8 fires do not include fireworks that hit a house near Pinecrest and the Queensway. Fortunately, the house did not catch fire. New research from Carleton University examines just how stressful the pandemic has been for parents. Researchers from Carleton University Sprott School of Business tracked the mental health effects of the pandemic on Ontario working parents in a new report, which suggests that women have been hit harder regardless of their children's ages. Ottawa's Catholic School Board to debate flying the Pride flag at its meeting tonight. A motion, if passed, would authorize the rainbow flag to be flown at the board's headquarters on Hunt Club on a temporary second flagpole this June, with a permanent second flagpole installed in future at the board office and each each of the board schools. This year's CHEO Telethon features a 2-week online campaign leading up to the broadcast, and it's on now. Your donations help the Children's Hospital treat kids with illness, disease, injuries, and chronic conditions. You can give at cheotelethon.com or call in during the live CHEO Telethon on June 6th. City News Time, 9:34. I'm Jason White. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And as promised, we're joined once more by Professor Ian Lee, Sprott School of Business, Carleton University. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you. I want to jump right back into this whole business of giving Mark Motors a $2.9 million grant under the under this community development program or a local investment program. My colleague here at City News, Mark Sutcliffe, actually has a column in the Ottawa Citizen this morning about this. He says in the paper today, quote, "The city's role should be to invest in community assets that enhance neighborhoods and make them safer and more appealing, not to give tax incentives based on the flawed arguments of infinite economic growth and net gain in taxes." That the idea that it's not about the business, it's about whether we should have these business incentive programs at all. What do you think?
Well, this is exactly the, I agree with, I've had my disagreements with Mark Sutcliffe before on various policy issues, but on this one, this was the argument I was making last week. I was using slightly different language, but it was saying the same thing. The role of government is to provide what economists have called for 300 years public goods, national defense, environmental protection, public parks, roads, the justice system. There's no market. You can't create a company to run shares on the stock exchange saying, I'm going to start locking Canadians up. The criminal justice system, we don't think of it in those terms, but it's a public good. It's not a private good. And these aren't just buzzwords. A private good, and sorry, but just allow me to spell this out because this is in economics and it's absolutely solid. Okay. A private good is something that can be owned privately and you can deny anyone else the use of that private good. I own my house, and if I say to you, you cannot enter my house, that's perfectly lawful. Everyone says, well, of course. That's what a private good is. It's privately owned, and it's exclusively privately owned. My car is my car, and nobody can use it if I don't permit them to use it, or my house, or my wheelbarrow, or my drill, and so on and so on. So there's gazillions of private goods, and the role of the private sector is to make private goods and sell them to private individuals in private contractual exchanges, like Mark Motors. The role of government is not to pick winners and losers. The role of government is not to subsidize private firms. And people say, why not? Because that's a good thing, having growth. And the answer, the most obvious one is, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of businesses in any city, and they cannot subsidize them all. So the moment you say, I'm giving Mark Motors money, you are not giving money to thousands and thousands of other businesses. What about all the other auto dealers? Just let's talk auto dealers and then stop right there and say, well, why auto dealers? What about technology companies? What about small businesses down Bank Street?
Sure.
What about pizza stores?
Yeah.
What about McDonald's and fast food?
The list is endless, right? Yeah.
The list is endless. Resources are finite, and the role of government is to create a level playing field, make sure that there's zoning rules that everybody abides by, level playing field, and they should not be putting money, scarce resources, into a particular company. And remember, Watson and Council said, look, we cannot live on a 2% increase. Okay, we need more because there's so many urgent things to do. This decision makes a mockery of that. My first answer is, well, if all you're going to do is give money away to select friends of the councillors, well, then let's go back to 2% from 3% tax increase, and so we don't have the extra resources to squander on one company or another. And I'm not attacking Mark Motors. I'm a big capitalist. I believe in private for-profit enterprise, but I don't believe that they should be on the public dole. And they're on the public dole right now. I hope Mark Moder stands up and has a press conference and says, I'm sorry, we're right, we're wrong, we made a mistake, and we are rejecting this freebie. We are not going to go on the public dole, on social assistance, or what's sometimes called corporate welfare.
Corporate welfare.
This gives corporations a bad name.
Another point that's been raised is, okay, so it's a Porsche dealership, which is such an easy target, right?
Yes.
Would we be kicking up all this fuss if it was, say, a very fancy restaurant that you could only attend if you were the kind of person who drove a Porsche? But also with a policy like this, because right now it's Vanier and it's Bell's Corners and. Apparently, David tells me next up is, parts of Orleans are going to have this same kind of program. It's also, it's not only kind of one business has picked a winner over another, it's one area of the city.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The market, and I know it's very fashionable amongst some of my colleagues, I don't mean in the Sprott School, I mean in universities writ large, to attack the market. Let's be clear when we use the market, because Jagmeet Singh goes after the market, and sometimes Mr. Trudeau does. The market is all of us. We, the people. The automobile market is all the people that buy cars from car dealers and car manufacturers. So when people sneer at the market, let's be very clear what they're doing. They're sneering at ordinary people who are buying clothing or going to a restaurant, or they're buying an RV, or they're doing a reno in their house by going to Rona or to Home Depot. That's the market. The market is all of us buying and selling every day. Labor markets, wage markets, contractor markets, renovation markets, automobile markets. And the markets are very good at allocating goods and services. That's why the wealthiest countries in the world, let's get this out there right now, for all the people that really don't like what they're about to hear what I'm saying. The wealthiest countries in the world have market economies. The poorest countries in the world have the exact opposite of market economies. Think of North Korea, think of Cuba, countries like that, where government literally owns everything and allocates everything, and it's produced massive, unbelievable poverty.
Okay.
Governments don't do this well. Get out of the way, councillors.
Right.
Stop squandering public money.
I've interviewed at least two councillors about this, and they have both told me, and you've heard the mayor repeat this, we're coming out on top. This is good for the city. It's more tax revenue for the city year after year. Going to be over the length of this grant. It's going to be $1 million more in property tax. More people will be employed. It's going to be a nice kind of anchor tenant for Montreal Road and Saint Laurent. Not a lot there right now. So what do you think of all of these?
Out of that nonsense, I get worried because it tells me that these councillors can't even think at a very basic level.
Okay.
And I'm not being nasty. Okay?
You're so mean sometimes.
No, I'm not. Listen, this is an idiotic argument. That's the argument. Therefore, then let's go and subsidize every company if that's such a good idea.
Right.
It's the same idea that deficits don't matter. Well, if that's the case, why stop at $1 trillion? Why not go for $5 trillion? Why not go for? It's the foolishness of this argument that there's no consequences and it's all wonderful. No, it isn't. The United States. Let's leave out the military because of their thing about national security as the world superpower. By and large, businesses don't get subsidized down there, and some will say, "Oh, no, that's not true." I've been to the States many, many times, and I've studied the books of the United States. And yes, they do subsidize some. They subsidize some farmers because agriculture has a huge weight in the rural down there. But by and large, if you look at the totality of all the corporations in the United States and all the businesses, the vast majority do not get government largesse. And what we're doing here is the city of Ottawa is going down a very dangerous road because first off, they are picking winners and losers. Yeah. They are picking regions, one region.
I don't know, Professor. I don't know how accurate that is. I mean, look at the bidding war that was underway when Amazon was going to build its global headquarters. I mean, all of those American jurisdictions, big and small, couldn't trip over themselves fast enough with free land and tax rebates and tax forgiveness and tax holidays and everything else.
What they did, and I'm not trying to defend
and it's
it.
the same for the auto sector. It's the same for the aerospace sector. All of these big, they're all getting all kinds of tax breaks in one way or the other.
But there's a caveat. There's a couple of caveats there. First off, it's only a few giant corporations because they've got weight. Unfortunately, they've got clout. Secondly, they're going after the feds and the state governments. The municipalities, by and large, yes, they give them a 10-year deferral, but it's always a deferral. It's temporary. In this instance, they're just giving the money, hand out and out, giving it away. Well, look, Mayor, look, councillors, if you want to give money away, how about giving me back some of the obscene taxes that I pay? If you are really in the giving mode and you feel the giving spirit, let's start with the taxpayers in this city that I'm paying $10,000 a year to get lousy, terrible snow removal. Okay? And on top of that, I have councillors trying to make the roads worse, not better, for my car. Well, if you want to do something and you want to feel the love and you want to give money away, give it back to us. We, the people that paid these very, very high taxes. And Ottawa, by the way, on a per-person basis, this was studied by either the CD Howe or Fraser, Ottawa's taxes, municipal taxes per capita, are higher in Ottawa than any other major city in Canada. They have the progressive disease here, spending disease.
Yeah.
So
we love to be governed, that's for sure. We love to be governed.
Give away money, give it back to us.
All right.
And we will spend it more wisely.
We'll stop here. I want your take on whether you think the Bank of Canada is doing enough when it comes to the hot housing market, because the Globe and Mail editorial this weekend said absolutely not, should be doing more. So we'll be right back on that. When we come back, Professor Ian Lee, Sprott School of Business, Carleton University, here with us every Tuesday. Rob Snow Show, this is City News.
So Rideau Rockcliffe Community Resource Centre has been around since 1982, and it's here to serve residents of Ward 13. So our focus is on helping to reduce poverty in this community, as well as empowering residents to find resilience within themselves. So one of the new focuses of our centre is around food programming. So you'll notice today when we go around on a little tour that we have a number of food programs here at the center. So one being obviously our emergency food program, which is really great. So residents can come and access food when they are in need. We also have a number of food-based social enterprises here at Rideau Rockcliffe as well. So one being the Ottawa Good Food Box, another being Market Mobile. One of our new initiatives that started this year as response to COVID is called Good Food on the Move, and it's a click and collect online store, and we have 7 pickup locations throughout the city. More sort of local here for Ward 13 residents, we've also started a free produce market as well. So community members can come on Wednesdays and Fridays and be able to access additional free fruits and vegetables.
Social Harvest Ottawa is one of the social enterprises here at the Rideau Rockcliffe Community Resource Centre. We operate this great urban greenhouse, and our work is not only to grow nutritious and delicious food, but also to nourish communities with community members here in Ward 13 and beyond. The greenhouse is a year-round project. We're a team of 4 employees working here. We have 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. We focus on growing microgreens from late fall to early spring, and hothouse crops in the summertime, such as tomatoes and cucumbers.
The Mission Food Truck we're in our 5th week of collaborating with them to come visit our center, and we just got in on it at the right time. They were looking for new communities to branch out to. They said absolutely. Right now they're funded through donations. They travel around Ottawa and just give out delicious, fresh, hot food to people as well. We have at our center the Ottawa Good Food Box, as well as the Market Mobile. So Ottawa Good Food Box has been around for 25 years, and Market Mobile is a little younger, started in 2014. So they both have the mission and the mandate of making fresh food more accessible and affordable in neighborhoods that lack access to a grocery store. So I think the greatest need that we've seen as a result of the pandemic in our community is people that we maybe have never needed to access our services before, right? So a lot of people have had, layoffs. Maybe they're just not able to work because they have to stay home with their children, over the summer, that sort of thing. So we've definitely seen the need go out, particularly for our food programming, as well as some of our counseling services as well. So it's a heavy time for people emotionally.
Here's a major order at time of purchase. Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
We're back with Associate Professor of Management of the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University, Professor Ian Lee. I want to read you from the Globe and Mail editorial a few days ago. What's the date? Oh, well, yesterday's editorial, May 24th. Okay. Are you there, Professor?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Okay, listen to this. Something has gone seriously wrong with Canada's housing market, it says. This year's price surge is the result of years of decisions and indecision from politicians of all levels, municipal included. The building of housing in Canada is too restricted in too many neighborhoods, which is something that you brought up time and again.
Yes.
With zoning effectively designed to freeze the number and size of existing buildings, thereby preventing the addition of more homes. Meanwhile, at the provincial and federal level, governments for years largely ignored housing. If too many people can't afford to live in the country's big cities where the economy's energy is greatest, that will hurt Canada's prospects. It would also be something of a betrayal of this country's young people. Generations of middle-class Canadians, through concerted savings and hard work, were able to buy a place to live. That equation is threatened. Mr. Macklem's urging of caution is wise, but fixing this is going to take more than words of warning. I want to ask, do you think the Bank of Canada should be raising interest rates? The bank says it can't raise interest rates right now. The economy's too weak because of the pandemic. I would say to the Bank of Canada, your business is not your business is to worry about inflation, to make sure our currency is not debased, not so much to focus on the economy. But I don't know. I think it really needs to get a handle on the housing market. And what the most effective thing it can do for the housing market is an interest rate hike. What do you think?
Let me just step back for one moment.
All right.
I think that Tiff Macklem has 3 boxes checked. He's very bright. He's very intelligent. He's highly educated with a PhD in economics. Some people could say that doesn't count or they don't admire that. I do. I respect that. Thirdly, he has enormous experience as a very senior public servant over a 25, 30-year career moving back and forth between Finance Canada and Bank of Canada. Okay. If you've got very good intellect and you've got lots of really good education and tons of experience, you should have an awful lot of backbone to speak truth to power.
Truth to power.
Unfortunately, Mr. Macklem, Dr. Macklem, notwithstanding his intellect, his education, his experience, has failed us because he was appointed by Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Morneau over the person that was being groomed, the woman who was the highly qualified woman, because I think they saw him as going in and singing that good old time green religion, and they wanted a greenie in there. Someone who's going to talk green progressive talk. That is not the role of the Bank of Canada. Once he got his appointment, he should have used his intellect, his education, his experience to say, look, my job is to speak truth to power to the Prime Minister of Canada and the Finance Minister and to the people of Canada. And right now, we have an empirically validated and demonstrated in study after study serious shortage of housing in Canada. And he should have gone further and say, this is because of deficient, destructive, dysfunctional policies at the municipal and provincial level. And this is causing great damage to the people of Canada, and it is wrong. That's using the bully pulpit. He is the governor of the Bank of Canada. If he said that, oh my gosh, he would have the attention of everybody in this country. He would have mayors screaming at him, of course, and all the other weak-kneed people that are on the councils across Canada that think it's kind of cool to restrict the housing and create this crisis.
Well, they wrap it up in we have to fight sprawl and we have to fight long commutes and oh my gosh, the car will win and all of this other stuff, right?
Let's say it. I will say it.
Yeah.
Okay, I do have backbone. That is propaganda. Propaganda. Okay, this idea that we have to fight urban sprawl, that's just a pejorative term for young people and immigrants going to the edges of the city to buy affordable housing. We built this country, literally, if you go back to the beginning, we created a core in every city that was like 1 mile by 1 mile, then we expanded it to 2 miles by 2 miles, and so on. As I keep saying, the Market was the original downtown of Ottawa. The Glebe was the first suburb in the 1880s of Ottawa. And we just kept adding suburbs as growth occurred because we were a magnet for immigrants around the world, the same as the States. So the idea that now we can no longer do what we did for 150 years to address growth of human beings coming to Canada, is just preposterous propaganda by progressives who hate growth, don't like suburbs, and want to drive up the value of their properties in the core, in the Glebe, in Sandy Hill, in Westboro. This is the greed of the most privileged people in Canada. He, Mr. Macklem, should have stood up and called them out and said these policies are harmful and destructive and hurtful. That's the problem. The interest rates, yes, are contributing in the sense that when they're so low, it incentivizes people to go and buy a house. But the problem is if the house supply was there from the beginning, the house prices would not be going through the roof, even with extremely low interest rates. In other words, that's only a symptom of the disease. The disease are the municipal councillors across Canada deliberately restricting growth of housing, knowing it's hurting young people and immigrants. They should be condemned in the strongest terms possible. They are the cause of the cancer in our country, the housing cancer, because they are restricting the supply, and they should be condemned every step of the day, every day of the week, from as strongly as possible.
Okay, very quickly, we only have about a minute and a half. I wish we had more time to get into this topic, but just kind of your gut reaction to Mr. Trudeau saying Quebec can unilaterally amend the Constitution and insert a couple of clauses there. Quebec is a nation, French is our language. What do you think about that?
I think it's very dangerous territory because beware, the old Chinese proverb, beware of what you want, for you shall get it. The first thing I thought when the moment I heard that was, okay, now Alberta can declare that oil and natural gas amend their constitution, the Alberta Constitution, and say this is an essential resource for the economy of Alberta.
Yeah.
And other provinces can do the same thing, things that are antithetical to current federal public policy. And so I think it's very, very dangerous what he's doing because he hasn't thought through the consequences, the knock-on effect as this sinks in, and more premiers say, gee whiz, if Quebec can do that, we can do whatever our pet project is in our province with our government. And if I was the Premier Ford, he could announce that we're going to guarantee private property rights, which were never Pierre Trudeau stopped that from being embedded in the original Constitution. So let's do the same thing in Ontario, and Alberta can declare oil and natural resources, oil, gas, and coal, for that matter, as an essential natural resource for the prosperity of it's part of their unique condition in Alberta. And this is where I think this will probably get challenged. Whether or not the Supreme Court will uphold the Quebec proposal is yet to be seen. But I think Mr. Trudeau is really playing with wildfire on this file.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad you're well, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
Yeah, bye-bye. From the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University, Associate Professor of Management, Professor Ian Lee. Talkback Hour is coming up right after the 10 o'clock news. Yeah, we're back. Yeah, it's been a few days since we've heard from you. Love to reconnect at 750-1310, 750-1310. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
Now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
This is Tuesday, the 25th of May. Good morning. I'm Jason White. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, partly cloudy, 17 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Canada could soon have more choices when it comes to vaccinating younger people. Moderna says its shot is safe and effective in kids 12 and older, and it will soon seek regulatory approval. Our Jamie Pulfer's here with more on the results of the latest trial data.
It could soon mean more options to get younger people vaccinated against COVID. After a review of its latest trial, Moderna says its vaccine is safe and very effective in children ages 12 to 17. Dr. Sanjay Gupta on CNN.
3,700 participants. There were no cases of COVID in the group that got the vaccine, 4 cases in the placebo group.
Moderna says that translates into a vaccine efficacy of 100% after 2 doses, but suggests the figure could change as more data is collected. The company also reviewed how well the vaccine worked after just 1 dose. The results suggest it's 93% effective. All of this still has to be peer reviewed, but Moderna plans to apply for U.S. regulatory approval in this age group. So what about Canada? Will Moderna join Pfizer as the second vaccine approved for those 12 and over? That depends on Health Canada. I'm Jamie Pulfer.
City News Time 10:02. The federal government is sending medical staff from the military and the Canadian Red Cross to help frontline healthcare workers in Manitoba. That province is dealing with high positivity rates and so many intensive care unit cases that patients are now being flown to Ontario. The federal health minister, Patty Hajdu, says the government is also prepared to send epidemiologists, lab techs, and contact tracers to respond to Manitoba's needs. Ontario residents who got a first dose of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine between March 10th and 19th can now start booking their second shot this week. The province has 45,000 doses of the vaccine it needs to use up before they expire next week. Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health says the shorter than recommended interval of 10, not 12 weeks is safe and provides strong protection. There will be a Rise and Remember George Floyd celebration today at the intersection of 38th and Chicago streets in Minneapolis, where Floyd died. Many members of the Floyd family will have a private meeting today with U.S. President Biden, who's pledged to continue fighting for racial justice. The family's lawyer hopes that Biden will renew his support for policing reform named for George Floyd. It would ban chokeholds and no-knock police raids and create a national registry for officers who've been disciplined for serious misconduct. The European Union demanding the immediate release of a detained Belarusian journalist. He was arrested Sunday after the Belarusian flight controllers told the crew of the plane he was on that there was a bomb threat, ordering it to land escorted by a fighter jet. The UN's Human Rights Office denounces the plane's diversion as an abuse of state power.
The manner through threat of military force in which Protasevich was abducted from the jurisdiction of another state and brought within that of Belarus was tantamount to an extraordinary rendition.
Belarus has defended its actions, saying its transport ministry has invited international aviation officials to investigate the flight's diversion. Time now for a look at the forecast. Here's weather specialist Denise Andriacci.
Mainly cloudy with the risk of storms today and a gusty southwest wind. Highs near 29, the overnight low near 20. Risk of thunderstorms again for Wednesday with scattered showers about 5 to 10 millimeters expected through Smiths Falls and Ottawa. Highs near 25 degrees, still slightly muggy, and then temperatures will cool for Thursday. Your daytime high today near 29.
Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, partly cloudy, 17 degrees. I'm Jason White. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
With the Talkback Hour, Tuesday Talkback Hour, after the May long weekend, and the May long weekend has come and gone. May 2-4 long weekend. That's it. That's all. It's over. How was it for you, David? David spent it on the golf course, right? Played a lot of golf.
Almost literally.
Making up for lost time, right? Making up for lost time.
I was there for like 13 hours yesterday. It was fantastic.
You were at the golf course for 13 hours.
I played 36 holes yesterday. I'm baked.
Good for you.
Sunburnt. And
yes, you are a little on the pinkish side today. But
gosh, was it ever nice.
That's good. Good
what
for you,
a wonderful weather weekend.
Nice weather. Very good weather. But, that's it. May 2-4 is come and gone. Almost June. And we are still under lockdown. Okay. 750-1310. 750-1310, 613-750-1310. So I hate to do this to you, but I feel like I must do this today. And I'll ask you, Dave, I mean, what holiday or benchmark, say, what other long weekend that hasn't happened yet in 2021, do you think the one that will be normal, that we can call it normal? Oh, finally, normal. This actually feels like the before times. The before times. There's an after COVID-19, and then there's the before times, right? Like Canada Day. It doesn't sound like Canada's Day is going to be that day, right? We're not going to have a big Canada Day, are we? With big crowds on the hill and fireworks and all of that stuff and wild party, big show. I don't think so. So, okay, if Canada Day is a bust, what's next? August long weekend? August long week? We're into August then, right? And if it's not the August long weekend, what do? Do we aim for Labor Day? And like the last kick at summer, Labor Day? Maybe Labor Day is, gosh, this reminds me of a Labor Day long weekend of the past. Like COVID is over. COVID is gone. It's supposed to be a 2-dose fall. But it will still be summer by Labor Day, which leads you into, well, maybe Thanksgiving. Maybe a family get-together for Thanksgiving, turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, the whole thing. And if it's not, then it's Halloween and Christmas. And if it's not Christmas, then the whole year's a write-off. So what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Do we have kind of a normal holiday in us this year? Or will it take until next year, now that the May 24th long weekend, Victoria Day long weekend's come and gone? And I mean, I'm talking no worries, crowds, jubilation. Think sporting events and concerts, and you're not wearing a mask and you're not afraid. When do you think that's going to happen? When is that going to happen? Look, it's May 25th, and we are still under a lockdown in Ottawa. I wanted to bring this up because of the reaction, just my own kind of gut reaction to watching that golf tournament this weekend. The Pga Championship was on, one of the major championships of golf. And yeah, Phil Mickelson makes news because he won it, and he's 50 years old, and so he's the oldest major champion ever. Good for him. But that's a remarkable accomplishment, and way to go, Phil. But and maybe it's a Canadian thing, what I still find remarkable about it is, look at all those people. Look at all those people. I mean, it's been a year and a half. Maybe I shouldn't have that reaction, but that's the reaction I have. Look at all of those people. This tournament was held at a resort in South Carolina. And I don't know how big that crowd was, but when Phil Mickelson was walking up the 18th and he had his approach shot to get to the green, I mean, there were thousands and thousands of people, and I think it was Jim Nantz who was saying, they seem to have lost control of the situation. I think they have lost control of the situation. Phil Mickelson and his playing partner, Brooks Koepka, they were enveloped. They were like little specks in this sea of people. And I thought, my God, I just can't get used to seeing that anymore. It's so strange to see that. No masks. And there may have been some drinking going on. A real carnival atmosphere. And that's South Carolina. where 33% of the population is fully vaccinated. It's about 40% has had one dose and 33% have had 2 doses. Here we have about 50% has had 1 dose and barely 5%. If it's, I doubt if it's even 5% of the Canadian population right now. The last number I saw is like 4.4% of the Canadian population has had 2 doses of vaccine. And I'm seeing this play out on my television screen. Because while Phil Mickelson is enveloped in this big crowd, then you turn over to the NHL playoffs and you have the Habs and Leafs on, or you have your pick of the Jets and the Oilers. And what is it? It's kind of like the same old that we've seen since sports resumed. And there are no fans in the stands, and it's kind of a bummer, and it's kind of a downer. I mean, they can pipe the sound of the crowd in, but it's not the same. So I was struck by that. I couldn't help but think, looking at the golf championship and just wondering, when is that going to be us? When is it going to be our turn? Because now we know it's not the May 2-4 long weekend. You know, that's over, that's done with. So when is that going to be? When you think about the year ahead, okay, and all those events that are still to come, all those opportunities to have a party, to celebrate Canada Day, August long weekend, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, whatever, Halloween, Christmas. Will it even be this year? You know, if barely 5% of the Canadian population is fully vaccinated against COVID-19, and it's just, about to be turned into June, 6 months into the year, barely 5% has had 2 doses. Is our life really going to return to normal in 2021? You could throw away the mask and not even worry about things? You know, in South Carolina, where they held that golf tournament, 33% of the population is fully vaccinated. 33%. A lot better than the situation in Canada. And, you see the consequences on your television screen. When is life going to get back to normal? Whatever normal is going to be from here on in. When are people going to be able to go and, have a party, go to a sporting event, go to a concert, and not even think about it, not even worry about it, and not even wear a mask? When? You just pick a date on the calendar, a holiday on the calendar. And that's how we'll start the Talkback Hour. That's how we roll on the Talkback Hour. On the Rob Snow Show. 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. Email therobsnowshow@ottawa.citynews.ca. Back with your calls right after this.
It was devastating, and it's devastating to all small business, but not knowing where it was going to go. But then the renovation market, as people stayed home, took off like wildfire. And for us, yes, we're very lucky, very fortunate that we were able to turn things around. I think a lot of it had to do with our internet presence as well, that I was, kept working on over years, and then it kind of took off. So that was very positive. But now, no, people are staying at home. We're renovating different markets, whether it's a kitchen or a backyard or, your fireplace. They want to cozy things up. So yes, things are extremely busy right now. Right now it's fireplaces, and I think with the snowbirds, a lot of those clients have existing wood fireplaces, so they're looking at inserts. So they want to convert the wood to gas. They don't want to deal with the wood part of it, but they want it clean and easy and efficient, and that's been a major increase in our business. The cottage and chalet market has really increased, absolutely. We see that people, that's their staycation now, is either the backyard or their cottage with their close bubble of family. So there's no question that we've seen a big increase in that area as well. I've seen a change in the backyard because now the staycation, from my past being in the pool business, one of our great clients was in the other day and he's in the pool business. He's booking for 2022 for in-ground pools, okay? So I think what's happened now is that's brought everybody back home, and I think maybe down the road, maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now, we're still gonna see people spending time in their backyards and staying home more. The barbecue area, really, we call it the backyard. So you walk out of your house into a backyard, and it kind of looks like that with the fencing and the sky and things like that. So that is just our fun room. It's just, there's a lot of cool gadgets there that has to do with dealing with charcoal and wood pellet barbecues. To go online, you're going to find, you just Google, romantic fireplaces will come up. The one nice thing about our work is that when the Google reviews and the Google pictures are phenomenal. We're uploading stuff every day. I have at least 1,000 jobs, real jobs that you can take a look at, either on the Google pictures on the drive, or if you go to our website at romanticfireplaces.com and click on Our Work. It's where we used to load lots of them up, but there's lots of pictures there too. But the great thing about that is they're real. There's testimonials there about people talking about our team. And our team here is unique to everybody else. It's two small teams, but these fellas work for me. They're our guys. So when they go into your home, they care as much about your house as you do.
Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
When is life going to get back to normal, essentially, is the question. If it's not the May 2-4 long weekend, when is it going to be? Certainly not the only issue that's in the mix and will be in the mix for quite some time. Vaccines are always a big news story, and the uncertainty about tens of thousands of doses of AstraZeneca shots, what people like me who had a dose of AstraZeneca are going to do, what's to become of us. It's been a big story recently. I said last week, the way things are lining up now, I do wonder if I'll even be getting a second dose of AstraZeneca, or is it more likely that I'm going to end up having to mix and match, which, wouldn't be my preference. I'd rather just have a second dose that is the same as the first dose, but I will put my faith in medical science. Okay. If medical science says, Rob, don't worry about it, I won't. I'll worry about it, but I'll not let on that I'm worried. Okay. If it's Pfizer, I'll take Pfizer. Just go ahead, jab me, and I'll be on my way. We're doing about 1% of the population a day now. The Americans are doing about 0.5% of their population. It's really slowed in the United States now, the vaccination rollout. I still don't think you can claim that we're out vaccinating the United States. Not when we have barely 5% of the population that is fully vaccinated. I still don't think you can make the claim we're out vaccinating the United States, simply because you don't get the full benefit of these vaccines until you've had a second shot. And still on that score, there's no way anyone can claim that we're out vaccinating the United States. In fact, I would say it's an outrageous claim to make, because having one dose doesn't mean you're vaccinated. It means you're partially vaccinated. And in the United States, it's almost 39% of the population of the United States fully vaccinated. Here, it's barely 5%. If it's 5%, I'd be surprised today. All publicly available. Our World in Data, Bloomberg Vaccine Tracker. Go look it up for yourself. But I wouldn't hesitate to get a second dose of AstraZeneca. Reuters had a story a couple of days ago, headlined, 2 AstraZeneca shots could be 85 to 90% effective, UK data suggests. I mean, this has been, a real workhorse for the United Kingdom's vaccination effort. Quoting from this Reuters story, in a weekly surveillance report, Public Health England said The estimated effectiveness of the AstraZeneca vaccine invented at the University of Oxford was 89% compared to unvaccinated people. That compares to 90% estimated effectiveness against symptomatic disease for the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. But it has a caveat. Public Health England said the preliminary findings were the first of its kind on the effectiveness of 2 doses of AstraZeneca in a real-world setting, but cautioned that had low confidence in the findings and that the results would be considered inconclusive until more evidence was gathered. So take it for what it's worth, which Public Health England says might not be worth very much. Okay, so new case counts are in. 1,039 for the province of Ontario for the last reporting period. A pretty good number, right? On May 24th, they did 16,900 tests. Today, the number was 20,200. 48 is the number for Ottawa, 12 for Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, 1 for Renfrew, 0 for the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, 0. Dr. Paul will be pleased with that number. Dr. Paul Remiliotis, Medical Officer of Health there. Steve, Perth, good morning. You're on City News, Steve.
Yes, I was watching the news last night.
You were? What'd you see on the news?
Ontario.
Yeah.
There were hundreds of young people out racing again, and the police were standing by watching them.
Yes.
What I think is going to happen, what's going to happen?
Yep.
I think it'll be a couple of years before we even go back to normal, the way we're operating right now.
You think it'll be a while?
A couple of years.
A couple of years?
Definitely.
A couple of years? Seriously?
Yep. I'm not joking. We only got 4 or 5% now, right?
Well, about 5% are 5% fully vaccinated. Yeah.
A couple of years.
Yeah. Couple of years.
Definitely.
Like not even this year, Steve. I was watching the golf championship this weekend, and there were like thousands, 10,000 people in South Carolina going to watch a golf tournament.
And how many people are still dying in the States?
Oh, not nearly as many as before, sir. Not nearly as many as before. They're back to levels they haven't seen in about a year now.
I figure a couple of years here in Canada.
A couple of years. You think it's going to be a couple of years before, I have to, I'll be able to stop wearing my mask and I'll be able to go to a concert or...
I figure that.
Holy cow, Steve, you've just thoroughly depressed me right now, buddy.
I'm really sorry, but you know what?
Yeah.
Our government is not doing a good job.
Not doing a good job. Okay.
Nope. All
right, sir. Okay. Thank you for calling. Well, that's very, very, very discouraging, Steve. I hope you're wrong. You have no idea how much I hope you're wrong. But I thank you for the call. 750-1310, 750-1310. I don't know. I was kind of hoping we were coming out the other side of it. I mean, what is your sense of it? Are we coming out the other side of this or aren't we? Is it almost over? Can you almost see the finish line? Or are you like Steve? No, we're not even close to the end yet. 1 dose summer, 2 dose fall. 48 cases in Ottawa yesterday. 43 in Ottawa yesterday. 48 is the number reported today. About 1,700 a day province-wide over the weekend is what I saw in the news media over the weekend. The number for today is 1,039, which would be a big drop, but not many tests were done. That's probably a testing thing, David. If we go from 1,700 down to 1,000, it's got to be related to the number of tests, I would think.
I can't remember the last time I saw a testing number that low.
Right.
16,900 on the holiday Monday. I know it's a holiday. But
even if it's 1,700 a day and it goes to 1,000, let's take it, say, a longer time horizon here. It's much improved from where we were. Remember where we were. The day that this latest version of the lockdown stay-at-home order was brought into effect, the number was about 3,200 cases a day, and it only went up from there. And one day in the middle of April, the number was about 4,800 cases province-wide. So 1,700 or 1,000 today is, it's greatly improved, right? And now we've seen this 3-step reopening plan from the Ontario government. The curfew in Quebec ends later this week. Imagine that curfew in Quebec was in place for 6 months. It will have been in place for half a year. They had, you're not allowed to leave your house. It's against the law. If we catch you outside after, well, in some places it was 9:30, in some places it was 8 o'clock, and it was province-wide 5 o'clock in the morning, catch you out between those hours, you're in big trouble. $1,500 fine. And on the vaccine front, 55% of Canadians have had one dose of vaccine. One dose, the first dose. And the government is sure not shy about letting you know about that, right? But you point out to a Liberal that the percentage of the population that has had a second dose is less than 5%. They're quiet as church mice. In Castleman, we have Rob. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Mr. Snow. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Thank you. Just Rob. Yep, go ahead.
I am in full agreement with the first caller.
You think it's going to be years?
It's going to be at least a couple years before we get back to quote-unquote normal.
And why do you say that, sir? Is it purely because of the vaccination rate?
No, I think so. I think it's because they can. There's still a lot of variants out there. You give somebody power, they don't like to let go of it. We haven't had enough protests. We haven't had enough opposition to the use of our Charter of Rights as toilet paper, and so they're going to continue doing it.
Oh, you think that the people in authority will be hesitant to give up their newfound grip on power, if you will?
Really? We are a country that is being governed by unelected people right now.
And by unelected people, you mean?
I didn't elect anybody on the science table. I don't even know who the science table is made out of.
Right.
Who's on it? Who's on it? What are their biases?
Well, we've had some members of the Ontario Science Table on this program, for example.
Oh, I get it, but who are they?
Yeah, I know, and you didn't vote for them, right? So
no, exactly.
Yeah, they didn't run for office.
And how can they be experts when we haven't had a pandemic in over 100 years? Expertise requires at least some experience, no?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I'm not trying to.
They're the ones with all the letters. I know they're the ones with all the letters after their names. Sir, epidemiologists and immunologists and everything else, right? So,
but if they have never experienced it before, how can they really consider themselves to be experts? They are experts on the information that is currently available.
All right.
But they've not experienced
You don't have a lot of faith in them. I have
no faith.
No faith.
98% recovery rate.
Yeah, okay. All right. I feel like we've been through all of these conversations a million times before. 1028 Rob Snow Show on City News.
Local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
This is Tuesday, the 25th of May. Good morning, I'm Jason White. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, partly cloudy, 20 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. Breaking news from the province, 2 days of fewer than 2,000 new cases each of COVID-19. No data was released yesterday because of the holiday, and testing volume was down, but over the past 2 days, there were 96 new cases in Ottawa, 14 in Leeds, Grenville, and Lanark counties, 4 in Renfrew County, and the past 2 days saw the Eastern Ontario Health Unit add 5 new cases. 8 separate fires last night started by people who were setting off fireworks. The first and largest was a grass fire under the Hunt Club Bridge near Riverside. The 8 fires do not include fireworks hitting a house with people inside near Pinecrest and the Queensway. The house did not catch fire. The pandemic taking a heavy toll on the mental health of parents, and women have had it worse than men, regardless of the age of their kids. Those are some of the findings of new research from Carleton University's Sprott School of Business released today. Happening now in Orleans, the power is out to more than 850 homes and businesses in the Innes and Boyer Roads area. Hydro crews are on the scene and say the outage was caused by animal interference with an overhead line. They're hoping to have the power back on by about 11 o'clock. Stay with City News for the latest on this developing story. City News time 10:32. I'm Jason White. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show.
The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Hey, I'd love to hear from you. We're just kind of thinking out loud, when is life going to get back to normal? Wild and crazy scenes from the Pga Championship and that big crowd enveloping Phil Mickelson as he becomes the oldest major champion in golf history. At the age of 50, you go Phil, and then you turn on the hockey game. Meantime, in Canada, there's nobody allowed. There's nobody allowed. So, right back to the phone, 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310, Rob Snow Show, Talkback Hour. Martin in Russell. Martin.
Good morning.
Morning, Martin. How are you?
Good, yourself?
I'm glad to hear it, Martin. What do you think? Martin, I'm just thinking out loud. I look at South Carolina, and I'm kind of jealous, and I'm wondering, when can that be us,
March 2023.
March of 2023. So not this year, not even next year.
Nope. I'll tell you why.
Okay, I'd love to know how you arrive at that conclusion. Yeah.
Anxiety. This morning I was speaking to my mother. She's 79. She's fully vaccinated.
Fully vaccinated. Okay.
And she's deathly afraid of variants. She listens to the local news. They keep talking about India, whereas in the United States, everybody's walking around maskless are fully vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to explain it's okay. No, anxiety. I spoke to my aunt and uncle this weekend, mid-70s, same thing, fully vaccinated, total anxiety. I think what's happening is people in their psyche won't be able to let go of the mask.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's like a blanket, like
a security blanket kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
And,
okay.
I find that the media should be encouraging people, saying it's okay, you will be okay with the vaccine, whereas always the doom and gloom, right?
Okay. All right. But just our headspace is not there right now, so you think it's not going to be this year and it's not going to be next year? Not until spring of 2023, you said.
Yeah,
oh, my
before
goodness.
Everybody's comfortable.
Yeah.
And
okay.
accepts the fact that it's safe.
And accepts the fact that it's safe. Okay, Martin, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for your call in Russell today. Yeah. All right, that's an interest, and it's not because of the vaccination rates. It's not because of government control or anything like this. It's just kind of where people are emotionally is how he views it. In the United States, I looked it up this morning, 38.9% of Americans fully vaccinated now. 38.9% of the population fully vaccinated. Yeah, you can almost round it up. Would you be mad at me if I rounded it up and called it 40% of Americans are fully vaccinated, or would you call me fake news? The same number in Canada. I'm using Our World in Data, ourworldindata.org, compiled by the good people at Oxford University. 4.4%. So, I mean, it's not even close when it comes to being fully vaccinated, right? On that data point, Canada's the outlier, David. Canada's the big outlier on being fully vaccinated. Have you had your first shot yet?
No.
You haven't even had a first shot yet.
I get my first shot on the day Ontario goes into step 1 of reopening, June 14th.
Oh, okay. Okay, you're kind of showing us the way. You're showing us the way.
So I won't be fully vaccinated until October at the earliest.
So many other countries are doing so much better at getting second shots into arms. In the United Kingdom, they also had this kind of strategy, I guess you could call it. Let's get as many first shots into as many arms as possible and then worry about the second shots. But let's try and get as many first doses into as many arms as possible. But still, 33% of the UK's population, 33.4%, has had a second shot now. 33.4%. Here in Canada, 4.4%. In Israel, 60%. Listen to these numbers, David. Bahrain, these are the world beaters, okay? Bahrain, 41%. Chile, 40%. Hungary, 31%. Italy, then it drops off. Italy, 17%. But these are our peer countries, okay? Italy, France, 15%. Germany, 13.5%. And Canada, 4.4%. So let's hold off on the victory parade on the vaccination program right now, okay? Maybe someday. I don't know if it'll be someday soon, but I do wonder when that someday is actually going to be. Mike, Ottawa. Good morning, Mike. You're on City News.
Morning, Rob.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to be a little more optimistic.
Well, thank goodness we could use that around here, yeah.
Yeah, the other callers are sending me into a depression. I'm going to say it's going to be relatively back to normal by Christmas.
By Christmas, okay.
So, yeah, where I'm coming at this from is kind of adding 4 months to the date, to today's date. We're already closing in on Thanksgiving at that point. So I'm hoping by Christmas we're somewhere around the 70% mark that everybody is fully vaccinated, and that will give us the ability to be relatively back to normal.
Relatively back to normal. And what do you even view back to normal as?
Being able to go to a hockey game, being able to enjoy holiday dinners with the family.
Sure,
going into stores without wearing a mask.
Yeah, no mask. Yeah. That's a big one for me. No mask.
I can't.
I'm not an anti-masker or anything, but that's going to be a big one for me when I'm told you don't have to wear your mask anymore. That's going to be a big one for me.
Right, and you don't have to dry your hands out with sanitizer gel
all the time. Yeah, nonstop and all the time. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the call. That is a lot more uplifting. Every single phone line available right now, 750-1310. 750-1310, 613-750-1310. Back to normal, back tomorrow with the May 2-4 long weekend in the books, in the rear view mirror. That's what I was thinking about. Canada Day. Or you pick that another date on the calendar. Maybe it's the August long weekend, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas. A few callers this morning said it's not even going to be this year. It's not even going to be next year. Totally depressing. When do you think things will largely be back to normal? Is it going to be a normal, quote unquote, normal Christmas, for example? Or will it be before then? I mean, maybe, you know what? Maybe it will be way before then. Or maybe not even till next year. Maybe not even till the year after. A normal Christmas would be nice. Such a pleasant thought. First normal Christmas in 2 years. Family over for dinner, no masks required. Wouldn't that be nice? But is it possible, though? Is it even possible? Are we coming out the other side of this? Is there end in sight? Can you even say right now? Let's take a call. Can we take a call here? Yes? Mark in the South End. Good morning, Mark.
Thank you, Rob.
Yes, sir.
One point I'd like to make. These comparative vaccination statistics between Canada and the United States,
yeah.
I wish they could measure. The question to ask is, what proportion of the population that wants to get vaccinated can do so now? Because in the United States, there's the proportion that remains unvaccinated consists of a great deal of anti-vaxxers who will refuse the chance when they have it.
Yes.
Whereas in Canada, of the people who can't get vaccinated as of right now, I believe there's a lot more of them, they want it and they can't get it, versus they can but they refuse it. And I don't know if these statistics have been measured, but it's a crucial factor. The American vaccination rate is going to drop off.
Well, it has dropped off. It's slowed considerably now. They've been doing 3, 4, a few days. They did 5 million doses a day, right? So
right, and it's not due to a vaccine shortage, or there's not.
No, they don't have any vaccine shortage, right?
So, I mean, if our situation was like theirs right now, I mean, all the people who want one in Canada could quickly get one.
Right.
Vaccines are more available in the U.S. It's that there are less takers now. And, of course, the question is...
Yeah, less takers right now, but they're still doing 1.8 million doses every day in the United States.
Which is very impressive.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, though, that, and this is where the science comes in, if the anti-vaxxers don't get vaccinated, will their numbers be too large to prevent herd immunity in the United States? And time will tell.
Yes.
And, of course, that will determine when we get back to normal.
Yes, it will. Thank you, Mark. Yep, very good point. Very good point, because they are meeting, they're running into hesitancy in the United States. Mark is right. There's no question about that. But they got off to that very fast start right out of the gate, and their vaccination numbers have just been superior to Canada's pretty much from day one. And now, yes, we have made up some ground on first doses, but they're putting us to shame on getting second shots into arms. Dan in Russell. Dan, good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, Dan, nice to hear from you, sir.
I can't give you a date, but here's what's going on. Those who got early single shots are starting now within next June or this June to get
Dan,
their second.
I have to put you on hold, Dan. It's just the phone. There's something wrong with your phone. So you talk to David. David will get your phone sorted out, and we'll roll from there. Is it Faith in Blackburn-Hamlet?
Yes.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to hear from you. When do you think things will start getting back to normal?
Well, I don't think they ever will go back to normal as we know it.
Okay. Well, what does the new normal look like then, do you think?
Pardon?
What will new normal look like, and when does that arrive, so I know?
I think in the downtowns of our large cities will go into terrible decay.
Decay?
Yes,
like urban decay?
Well, empty offices. And
empty offices,
no
sure.
ownership and dirty streets.
Yes. Yep.
Because most of the people will be working at home or from their cars. And it's work that has maintained downtowns in all cities.
Yes.
And the entertainment life's going to change because people will not want to go out in crowded places.
You think that's going to be a forever thing?
Yes.
Really?
I mean, you look at the smallpox vaccine. They dealt with smallpox for 1,000 years before they had a vaccine that worked, and even into this century was still killing people.
Okay.
Same with polio.
Right.
Polio is very, very active in Asia and a lot of countries. No, this vaccine, this virus is very, very tricky. That's why all these variants are showing up.
Yes.
And I think that will continue.
You think the virus will outwit us? Is that what you're saying, Faith?
No, I'm saying the virus will be one of the things that will outwit us.
Oh, I see. Okay.
After this, such a change in our economy, we'll never go back to.
Well, I mean, one of my commentaries, I think it was today's commentary, was tumbleweeds. I see tumbleweeds blowing down Queen Street.
Yeah.
You know, it would be nice to know when, for example, public servants are going to go back to work.
Maybe they are.
Downtown.
Maybe they aren't. I have a.
Well, when you ask say, Mr. Elward, who's with the Public Service Alliance of Canada, or you ask Treasury Board, hey, as a reporter, when are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of public servants going back to work in the office towers of downtown Ottawa and Gatineau? All you get is not anytime soon.
That's right. In my opinion, my observations, I would say they're not going back. Very few of them will ever go back.
Ever go back, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you get the sense we're even taking that seriously in the city? What does that mean for the city, right?
Oh, a lot.
What does that mean? You know,
our tax base is going to change tremendously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, why do we spend $1.5 billion putting a tunnel under downtown?
Well, why are we bothering to give money to
And now they're talking about building another tunnel under Spark Street, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Like, for who?
We don't know who will use it.
For who?
Rats.
For the tumbleweeds? I mean.
Yeah, tumbleweeds and rats. Yeah.
Thank you, Faith. Bye-bye. Yeah, very interesting conversation today. 10:47. Be right back with the final quarter of the Talkback Hour today here on City News.
We just took over this business about a few weeks prior to the pandemic, but we've been loving the community, the people, very friendly, but it's been very difficult starting up a new business, just the time that we did, but I'm sure it's the same everywhere. We did take a broken business, which doesn't help us, but we thought we believe in what we do. We're very passionate about food, and we just really wanted to share the Iraqi culture through our food. All our recipes are homemade, so this is very unique. Usually you hear restaurants, shops, it's all frozen food or prepared food. So nothing here is prepared, everything is homemade. We get our meat and produce from a local farm. So supporting local is the way to go. We are supporting all the way. And our meat are actually marinated the day of, so it's as fresh as can be. Quality ingredients and everything is made from scratch. I get a lot of people when they come in, they say it tastes like Middle Eastern, like back home. So for you to have been to Iraq and had the food there, you can really compare and see the similarity. We do like to focus on healthy. So our recipes, not only the homemade, again, everything is from scratch, but we have from combos and to small sandwiches. One of our favorites and very popular is the chicken salad and the beef salad. So now you're getting all the protein and all these amazing ingredients that we all need. During this time, I find a lot of people are sitting at home and not enough movement. So to come here and get something healthy other than go elsewhere and just put, what's not so good for our bodies, makes a huge difference. So we have shawarma sandwiches, combos. I mean, if you're looking for a meal to feed your family, I would highly recommend the family platter. It comes literally with everything, with potatoes, with rice, with chicken, with beef, and we don't charge extra for mix. I know a lot of places do. Here we just add everything to your platter. And lots of healthy choices for sure. We're very passionate about food, and for our small family business, it's been good. Like I said, it's a little struggle, but we are not a chained restaurant.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
When does life get back to normal? Are we coming out the other side of this? Is the end in sight? It's hard to say when you look at some of the news coverage. I like to look at as many newspapers early in the morning as I can. Halifax Chronicle Herald this morning, if we kind of worked our way across the country east to west. Number of new cases below 50 for the first time in over a month. 72 people in hospital, 19 in ICU. So the number of cases are down, where they had that surge in cases inside the Atlantic bubble, right? So that is good news. In the Gazette, you have Quebec moving up appointments for second doses. Also good news. This is nothing officially. Stories based on government people who whisper things into reporters' ears. But it seems in Quebec, they hope that they can hit 80% of Quebecers with one dose by the end of June. Because they want to have Fête Nationale, which is June 24th, and do a big thing about it. And those who would normally wait the 16 weeks between doses, maybe they won't have to wait that long. Maybe they only wait 2 months. They're supposed to announce something in early June. So that's encouraging. The Toronto Star is not so bullish with its coverage. Offers up a couple of stories this morning on the delayed deliveries of vaccine shipments. Trudeau's fault. Vaccine deliveries. Poised to slow this week. Canada expecting 600,000 Pfizer doses. We've been running that story all day. Canada set to receive fewer vaccine doses this week. In the Toronto Star, it says 51% of residents of Ontario have had at least one dose, which is 7.5 million doses. But in Ontario, only 3.6% of Ontario residents have had a second dose. 3.6% of residents of Ontario have had a second dose. That's 530,000 doses. That is not a winner. Manitoba is the worst hit province right now. It is a basket case. It's a terrible situation what's going on there. Much better in Regina, where the province is about to move into its phase 2 reopening in Saskatchewan, according to the Leader Post this morning, because 70% of the population has had at least one dose in Saskatchewan. Alberta goes back to school today. Oh, yeah, the legislature is getting back in Alberta today. But Jason Kenney had prorogued the legislature because he was under all that heat, getting it from the left, getting it from the right within his own party. Remember, they had to kick out some of his own MPPs or MLAs or whatever they're called up there in Alberta. You know what Rachel Notley's hammering away at him now? Sick days, paid sick days, need paid sick days. BC says it's all kind of like a holding pattern now. Come see, come saw. How you doing? Come see, come saw. Come see, come saw. Like that. All right, let's try Dan and Russell again. Dan on City News. Dan.
Okay, am I doing better now?
Yeah, I'm sounding a lot better now, Dan. Thank you. I can hear every word you say as opposed to every third word, which is always good.
Well, I hope that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Here it is. Here's my situation. Number one, right. What I was trying to say is June, starting in mid-June, second doses are starting for those of us who had appointments early.
Okay.
Now, that means that hopefully it'll be accelerating unless one thing happens.
What's that?
And that is, if you have the same amount of doses given, let's say you're giving out 150,000 a day now in Ontario. So you give out 150. Now these second doses are starting to come due. That means half of those will have to go to first dose.
Yeah.
Half the second dose. That'll slow the first dose down. That's number one, to think about numbers. I'm not sure how you can work it out. But the biggest thing that is my concern is as to getting back to normal. I'm saying that it may be different for different situations. I'm wondering, my mother is in a long-term home. She's been in prison now for a year and a half.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
Right.
You know, for a girl with dementia, this window stuff, Zoom stuff, all of this doesn't work.
No.
You need that hand touch, you need that touch. And it's, I don't know. Right now, everybody I talk to is saying, well, you never know. It's just in case, just in case, just in case. And it's just like bloody Caleb on your commercial. Just in case. Like, what will ever take, everybody in there right now, everybody is fully vaccinated. 95% of the staff is fully vaccinated. All of us who go in are tested once a week. We're tested every bloody time we go visit her. And at that, you still have that full protection.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I'm starting to think that for them,
maybe it'll never go back to normal.
It will never go back to normal. Add to that all the just in case in the stores. All these places who go, well, you never know, just in case. Well, wear the mask just in case. But everybody's fully vaccinated.
Right.
Oh, no, but just in case.
If you're a grocery store owner or any kind of, pick your type of business, maybe they're thinking, do I want to take the risk? To my, the reputational risk or whatever, right?
I recognize that. So in essence, if you look at it that way, the guys in the early part of the show who were saying 2023, I'm saying for some people it may be never.
Maybe never. Okay, Dan. Thank you, Dan.
Sorry to depress you.
Thank you. No, it's okay. If it's real, it's real. Nepean, Annette.
Hi.
Hi, Annette.
I'm listening to everybody, and they're all depressed.
Yeah, everybody's kind of down.
I don't know.
What do you think? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to be happy if I can get my second shot.
Yes. When are you supposed to get that?
I was supposed to get it in the end of July.
Right.
And I got my first one the end of March.
Okay.
But I spoke to the pharmacist at the corner where I live, and he's put me down for as soon as they get the Pfizer. He's going to call me, and I'm going to get my second shot.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah, thank goodness. But I have something to say.
Yes.
What was I going to tell you? Oh, yeah. Everybody's complaining about this and complaining about that.
Sure.
And last night I was watching CNN, and there was Chris Cuomo and Chris Christie, the former
Chris
governor.
Christie and Chris Cuomo. Wow, a real meeting of the minds there. What did those two giants have to say?
And they decided that they're going to call Prime Minister Trudeau and try and get the border open.
Oh, okay.
If you realize one thing, both sides are losing tourists.
Oh, yeah.
They're losing money.
Yeah.
Both ways.
Yeah.
So it would be a good idea if they opened it.
Sure. Well, you know what? I would feel more comfortable with Americans coming here than I think if I was an American. I don't know if I'd really want half-vaccinated Canadians flooding across my border.
Yeah, I understand, but there should be a way that they can find out if they're completely vaccinated. But who knows? But it would be a good idea if they opened up the border and people, both sides are losing money.
Yes.
And the other thing was the government, the buildings, they're empty.
Yes.
Well, the last thing I heard on CTV, and this is, quite a few weeks ago, they're planning to put them up and make apartments for the homeless. Or for poor people.
Only one. Yeah, There's one little one. Yeah, one little one. Yeah, well, they're not going to make all of those. They're not going to make every office building in downtown Ottawa into an apartment building to house homeless people.
No. I don't think we have that many homeless.
No.
But that's what I heard. And like as I said, everybody's so depressed. Hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, a lot of people are like, it is. I would like to be. It was what it was.
Yeah, well,
right?
I'm 81 years old, and I plan to live a long time, and I'm not going to let myself get depressed over this.
All right, Annette. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for making me smile. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. That's it for the Talkback Hour, 750-1310. Back right after this, Geoffrey Johnston from the Kingston Whig-Standard on what's been going on internationally, some very interesting events. This is City News.
news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
This is Tuesday, the 25th of May. Good morning, I'm Jason White. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, partly cloudy, 20 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The race to get vaccines into the arms of teenagers is getting a big boost as Moderna boasts about some incredible results. Our Jamie Pulfer joins us with the latest on the effort to get more shots into more arms.
Big news in the push to get younger people vaccinated against COVID. Moderna says its shot is safe and has excellent efficacy in teenagers, specifically those between 12 and 17 years old. Dr. Sanjay Gupta weighs in on CNN.
The data looks really strong. As you point out, even after the first dose, there was some significant benefit. After the second dose, there were essentially no cases of COVID in the vaccinated group. So we'll see how this plays out over the next several weeks, but it should be another candidate for people who want to get the vaccine in that age group.
In this latest trial, Moderna says the data is consistent with a vaccine efficacy of 100%, but suggests the figure could change as more data is collected. This has not been peer-reviewed yet. Moderna, though, is seeking FDA approval for use in this age group. Could it mean more options for Canada as well? Right now, Pfizer is the only approved vaccine for those 12 and over. I'm Jamie Pulfer.
City News Time, 11:02. Quebec joins several other provinces today in expanding its COVID-19 vaccination campaign, allowing anyone aged 12 and up to be booked online for a shot. Ontario's been registering youths for the Pfizer shot through its own provincial online portal since Sunday. Quebec hopes to get all of its teens their first shot next month and have them fully vaccinated around the time school starts in September. The lawyer for Ottawa City Councillor Rick Shirelli is speaking at a judicial review panel this morning, claiming that the mayor and other city councillors tainted the process. Bruce Savigny says the crux of his argument is that Jim Watson and councillors showed bias towards Shirelli, negatively characterizing issues of code of conduct before the Integrity Commissioner had made his ruling. But one of the justices on the panel is challenging Shirelli's lawyer, including on whether Shirelli was using medical excuses to refuse to participate in and to obstruct the Integrity Commissioner's investigation. Shirelli has been docked 9 months' salary for code of conduct infractions involving sexual harassment in the workplace. The College Ward councillor has denied the accusations. The hearing continues. Power's back on in Orleans. Hydro Ottawa says it has reconnected more than 850 homes and businesses near Innis and Boyer roads that lost power this morning when an animal interfered with an overhead line. U.S. President Joe Biden will meet privately today at the White House with members of the family of George Floyd. 1 year ago today, Floyd, who is black, died on a Minneapolis street with a white police officer's knee on his neck. Biden called on the U.S. Congress to pass police reform legislation so he could sign it by today, but negotiations are still ongoing on Capitol Hill. German customs officials are revealing the story of how 4.5 kilos of cocaine ended up in organic waste bins at a fruit logistics company. Staff at the company near Munich found the more than $1 million worth of cocaine in the trash. It had been put there as staff did not realize that the packages they had found packed inside banana crates were actually drugs. The drugs had been wrapped in tape inside crates that were shipped from Ecuador. Time now for a check on our forecast. Here's weather specialist Denise Andriacci.
Mainly cloudy with the risk of storms today and a gusty southwest wind. Highs near 29, the overnight low near 20. Risk of thunderstorms again for Wednesday with scattered showers about 5 to 10 millimeters expected through Smiths Falls and Ottawa. Highs near 25 degrees, still slightly muggy, and then temperatures will cool for Thursday. Your daytime high today near 29.
Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, partly cloudy, 20 degrees. I'm Jason White. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcoming back international affairs columnist Geoffrey Johnston from the Kingston Whig-Standard. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Hope you had a nice long weekend.
Relaxing.
That's good. That's good. I want to talk about scandalous inequity in vaccine distribution. This is a phrase that's been used by the Director General of the World Health Organization, who said, quote, "The ongoing vaccine crisis is a scandalous inequity that is perpetuating the pandemic. More than 75% of all vaccines have been administered in just 10 countries. There is no diplomatic way to say it. A small group of countries that make and buy the majority of the world's vaccines control the fate of the rest of the world. I want to know what you think of that statement, those comments, and what you think if it is a scandal, what's our role in it? What's Canada's role in it? Geoffrey Johnston.
Yeah, those are all good questions. So I've been covering this story for many months now, as you know, and I've interviewed actually the special advisor to Dr. Tedros a number of times. Yeah, so what Dr. Tedros was addressing the World Health Assembly yesterday, and there was, by the way, the G20 had a global health conference or summit on Friday, and so the issue of vaccine equity is very much one of the top issues right now. So what Dr. Tedros was saying is that basically nobody is safe unless everybody is safe. And there are gross inequities in the rollout of vaccines. And my most recent column for the Kingston Whig-Standard addresses the challenges facing sub-Saharan Africa. And now, less than 2% of all the vaccines that have been administered in the world today have gone to Africa, and so this is going to be a big problem because new variants are arising in parts of Africa. You've got 1.1 billion people who need to be vaccinated, and they're probably not going to be vaccinated at the current rate until 2023. Now, Dr. Tedros yesterday said that they're putting forward a plan to vaccinate 10% of the world's population by September. So that means in the next few months, between now and then, 250 million more people in low and middle-income countries will have to be vaccinated. And then the World Health Organization is also looking to vaccinate a larger proportion of the world's population by the end of the year. So to make all that happen, according to the Director General of the World Health Organization, there has to be greater sharing of doses with COVAX. The manufacturers are going to have to share more doses with them. They're going to have to scale up manufacturing. They're going to have to fully fund the ACT Accelerator. The ACT Accelerator was created at the beginning of this crisis to provide access to COVID vaccines, therapeutics, technologies, and other things associated with controlling the pandemic with the low and middle income countries. And finally, Dr. Tedros says that manufacturers of the COVID vaccines have to give COVAX the first right of refusal on new vaccine volumes, or they have to commit to allowing COVAX to purchase up to 50% of the new vaccine. So this is all going to be very ambitious. I, to be honest, don't think it's going to happen. As far as Canada goes, what role does Canada play? Well, Canada, like many other
the accusation could be we are vaccine hoarders.
Yeah, you can make that argument, and I think it probably would be accurate. Wow. Canada and other wealthy countries have made bilateral deals with vaccine manufacturers, and the developed world, the industrialized world, has bought up at least 85% of the vaccines. And we're going to vaccinate our entire population probably by September, whereas most healthcare workers in many parts of Africa will not be vaccinated at all, and that should be the bare minimum. And the reason this is a threat to global health is that, and we've said this many times on this program, you and I, if the virus is allowed to spread and mutate in large parts of the developing world, eventually those variants, no matter how tight our border controls, will find their way back into this country, and there is a very real possibility that at some point the vaccines will become less effective or totally ineffective in a number of years' time. So that's why vaccine equity is in everybody's interest. And the problem is when the pharmaceutical industry is set up to service the wealthiest countries. And another big problem is the lack of manufacturing capacity for pharmaceuticals in the developing world. And so at the G20 and at the World Health Summit, they're talking about the importance of establishing manufacturing in Africa, in Latin America, so that when vaccine nationalism happens, countries can't just slam the brakes on exporting vaccines to the developing world, because the Serum Institute is based in India, and India is now in the throes of a terrible COVID crisis, and there will be no vaccine exports from the Serum Institute in India until the end of this year. And of course, they're the ones that are supplying most of the AstraZeneca to the world. And this is going to hit COVAX really hard, because COVAX, the vaccine alliance for low and middle income countries, are getting their vaccines from the Serum Institute. So this is another reason to diversify vaccine manufacturing, and that means the industrialized world needs to put the manufacturers' feet to the fire and also start investing public money in setting up these manufacturing hubs in different parts of the world.
Okay. Hey, let's talk about one of the stories we want to sink our teeth into in this hour of the program. We'll be talking about it a little bit more at 11:30. Is the situation with Belarus? Belarus sent a fighter jet to force a Ryanair flight. Ryanair is a discount air carrier based out of Ireland, I believe. It was taking off from. It had taken off from Athens, and it was bound for the capital of Lithuania. And this fighter jet forced this Ryanair flight to land, claiming there was a bomb on board, that there was a bomb threat, which was a total hoax. They forced it to land, and they arrested a journalist who was on the plane. 126 passengers were on the plane, including a journalist who has written. He was very critical of the government in Belarus, which is led by basically a Putin puppet strongman. What do you think about that story? That's crazy, isn't it? It's
it's
serious stuff.
I would call that piracy, and a state, or you could even call it state-sponsored terrorism, because there was this bogus bomb threat. This Irish jet was in the airspace of Belarus. They scrambled the MiG, the fighter jet, to force it down. Reportedly, there were 4 Russians on the flight who didn't go on to their final destination.
Right. They think they may have been KGB or whatever, right? So, agents anyway, whatever the KGB is called now.
The dictator who rules Belarus is being kept in power by Vladimir Putin. This is very serious. This is piracy. So that's why the United Kingdom and other countries have come down really hard on them. And just yesterday, the European Union also came down hard on them. So that means that Belarus will not be allowed to have any of their aircraft in European space, and European airliners will not be allowed to fly in Belarusian airspace, because it's just too dangerous. I think the regime's got to be fully sanctioned and isolated, but the international community should also take a hard look at the role of the Putin administration in all of this, because this phoning in a bomb threat and then scrambling a jet endangered everybody on that flight. And by the way, there were American citizens on this, so the White House is quite upset about this, and they issued a very strong statement. So this story has a lot of different dimensions, and it could bring Russia and the United States into a more tense relationship than they already have.
Well, I mean, you have basically 2 EU countries, right, in Lithuania and Greece. So they're affected, and NATO countries too. So, I mean, there are alliances at play here as well, right? So,
it's
a huge deal to me.
The dictator who rules Belarus overplayed his hand here, because yesterday in the European Union, Hungary is a nominal ally of Belarus, and even Hungary did not object to the new sanctions put in place against Belarus. So, if anything, this could weaken his hand internationally. He way overplayed. And by the way, I have very grave concerns for the health of the journalists, because yesterday the Belarus released what I call criminal hostage video where the poor young man who clearly had been physically abused was forced to say that he wasn't being mistreated.
Yeah.
And there are reports now coming out of from his mother actually saying that he is now in grave condition in the hospital. So let's hope they're not.
Pratasevich, I think, is his name, right? Pratasevich.
Yeah. So it's very concerning.
All right, that's one that we'll be watching, Geoffrey. You and me together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good to hear from you. From the Kingston Whig-Standard international affairs columnist Geoffrey Johnston. We'll be right back. David Sali will join us. From the Ottawa Business Journal, we'll also go into a little bit more of the story about Belarus with the help of an analyst from the Macdonald Laurier Institute. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
Here at the Thirsty Maiden, we offer a variety of products. So everything from breakfast items, so it's breakfast sandwiches and scones, which have become a staple item here at the cafe. We have an assortment of pastries and cakes and desserts. So we're really big on our dessert bar, which a lot of people come here for. And of course, our delicious coffee beverages. So we do offer not your typical lattes, things like a chocolate banana coconut latte, cinnamon coconut, which is my favorite, and our take on even a pumpkin spice, which we add nutmeg and a dash of cayenne in just to give it a bit of a kick. When you start a business, you don't factor in all the things that could go wrong. You think anything that goes wrong, any failure, it's got to be something on your shoulders. You didn't market right, you're carrying the wrong products, you didn't price your items correctly, all the things, right? But when this pandemic began, things going through my brain were I didn't factor in a pandemic. And we were just starting to grow. We were about to blow up, and I think I spent 2 days crying. And then I shut my business down for, I think, a period of 2 or 3 days. And just being at home during that time, I realized this is not me. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a hard worker. I don't give up, and I'm a go-getter. And I started to think, well, I should probably just start clearing out my freezers and posting and seeing who wants to buy what. And that was sort of how I built my momentum back up. I realized that there's still a large number of people that wanted to support us and were looking for the items that I had to provide. So we started there. Then I reopened literally not even 3 or 4 days after I closed my doors, and then started doing curbside pickups and deliveries. Started doing the deliveries myself, free deliveries to the local community, going as far as Bell's Corners and Carp as well. And that's why we're still here. This community has really kept us going a year into the pandemic. But we've had a changeover of staff a couple times now, and situations change, and when you can't offer hours and hours for your employees, you don't blame them when they have to go elsewhere. So I think that's also been one of the challenges is recruiting, training, and then they leave, and then bringing in more people and recruiting. And anybody in this industry will tell you that that's something we deal with on a regular basis, whether or not COVID's in the mix or not. But more so now, because every time there's a lockdown, there's a risk of, will we make it through? And then you lay off more staff. And again, their situations and their circumstances change.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Just looking at where we are on the markets right now. With the May long weekend in the books, that long weekend behind us, and there is an old saying, sell in May and go away. Bitcoin, everyone wants to know about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is down 5%. There was a big sell-off in Bitcoin over the weekend. It had hit around $30,000, so half of its all-time high, but it's $37,620 right now, U.S. dollars. Gold is catching a bid, nudging up against 1900 now. U.S. announced 1892. That's kind of the classic inflation hedge, if inflation is indeed a concern. 66.16 is the price of oil, the West Texas futures contract. So again, U.S. dollars. Our currency, 82.84 cents U.S. So still hovering around 83 cents U.S. NASDAQ modestly higher. Dow's pretty much unchanged. Same with the S&P 500 and the TSX up 100 points, which is better than being down 100 points. So let's talk about big picture, though, kind of like macro, and coming up with a plan, a financial plan. After all of this, can you imagine? Peter Fraser is with me now, and he is a certified financial planner, portfolio manager with Cardinal Planning, Manulife Securities office here in Ottawa, the creator and author of Keep Your Wealth Plan. Good morning.
Hi, Rob.
Great to hear from you.
Thank you for the invitation.
How's business?
Business is pretty good, actually. Good. And
good.
Yeah, I think your question is the question that's on a lot of people's mind. But let's take a look at it, shall we?
Let's take a look at it. Yeah. So, what are some? I'd be curious, Peter, when people come to you, what are some common questions that they have right now for you?
Well, I think at 50,000 feet, a lot of people know that the tab is coming due for eye-popping public spending. And a guy named Simon Sinek says to start with why. So I always say, why would we care about anything like a post-mortem tax plan? But if this number in Canada now of public debt is at $2 trillion, really that amounts to about $60,000 for every man, woman, and child. And it's important to remember that 50% of Canadians pay no tax, and that national debt is got to be paid back after tax. So, those are big numbers. For a family of four, that would be like, $100,000 per person if that was to ever be repaid. And that's on top of your consumer debt, your mortgage, your education. So your question, people ask, how does this get dealt with? Because, in the history of the world, there's only really three ways forward. Sovereigns can default on debt, and of course, nobody really likes to have that happen because there's enormous consequences, and I don't think that's going to be the way forward. Inflation is a real opportunity from a monetary and fiscal perspective, but it is a hidden tax, so that happens while you're alive.
And what can I ask you that? I'm hearing this more and more often now. Inflation is the hidden tax. Because a lot of people won't maybe have not heard that before, because inflation really hasn't been a concern for a long time. We slayed the inflation dragon, right? Paul Volcker and company slayed the inflation dragon, but there was a lot of pain at the time, 20% interest rates, people turning in the keys to the house at the time. Why is it a hidden tax? Why do you call it that?
Year to date in Canada so far, inflation's running on an annualized basis at about 4%. Now that's double what the monetary authorities like to have as a manageable number. But if that was to persist, but 4% on a household income of $60,000 is $2,300 a year less in purchasing power. That's an inflation tax. That means the same basket of goods cost you that much more. And if your income doesn't go up, that is a hidden tax. It's a type of wealth tax. It is a tax on your wealth. And it's going on already, so that some of that is baked into the cake. But I think the real actual taxes, like income taxes, to deal with eye-popping debt numbers are not likely to increase. There's an old expression that governments have learned the art of plucking the goose with the least amount of squealing. And it opens up the concept of taxing assets and taxing estates. And I'm not talking about the way Europe tried and failed, but, we already have taxation in Canada when it comes to wealth and people's estates. So province levies a probate tax on everything, including your principal residence. Your capital gains taxes are calculated at death, so your cottage, your private company, all your investments, they're all considered sold. And the big punitive one in our country is that there's income tax levied on the full value of your registered assets, so RSPs and RIFs, for instance. And in Ottawa, a town that is full of millionaires, Shopify has probably created more than any other employer, but real estate, there's the the non-Conrad Black variety of millionaires, and taxes on those estates are already in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, would another tax work? People ask me. I don't think they have to. I think that, with $1 trillion transitioning between the generations in the next 9 years, governments are going to go with what's working.
Okay.
And what's working is that there's taxes already in place on the estates of Canadians.
Right. So that's why you advise clients, you need to stress test your income. Okay. If what you need to do, you need to run a stress test. What if you died today, what would you need to pay? Right. You have to add it all up. Everything you would have to pay to the government today.
And no plan is not usually the best plan. And so, remember that when we're talking estate planning, doing nothing rarely turns out to be a good idea. And it's all happening when you're already grieving a loss. So you're off your game, you're on the back foot. And that's why I think, I called it with David on the pre-call a post-mortem tax plan. But while you're alive and well and of sound mind and you've got all this great stuff going on, you should do an estate tax summary. List everything that you own today. And I find that most people, at least at first, don't know their number. Like most people don't know what are all the taxes that are going to be owed on my estate today. And I think, for the rest of
And when you tell them, Peter, are they shocked?
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
They are.
I mean,
they are. Okay.
You have a $500,000 RIF in Canada. You can bank on it that if you died today, there's probably $250,000 of income taxes owing on that RIF. Not your cottage, not everything else, just the RIF. So, that's what I'm saying. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars on most estates in Canada at the moment. And I think the responsibility to plan to minimize and mitigate that in the form of I call mine keep your wealth, but it really is just a post-mortem tax plan. And so all the pieces are in place for governments to tinker with this stuff. They can tinker with probate. They can tinker with capital gains at death. They can tinker with income tax at death. And they may slap, your estate is worth $2 million. We'd like an extra 5%. But there's lots of things to do there that already are not being planned for in the here and now. And do I think that's going to get more acute? I do, for sure. And planning is never, the first time to start was 100 years ago, and the second best time is today.
Thank you, Peter. Great to talk to you. I hope to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Good talking to you.
Certified Financial Planner, Portfolio Manager, Cardinal Planning, Manulife Securities Office here in Ottawa, creator and author of the Keep Your Wealth Plan. 11:28. When we come back, we'll get more into the story out of Belarus and some of the players and the wider implications when we return to the Rob Snow Show on City News.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, the 25th of May. Good morning, I'm Sarah Buck, and right now in Ottawa, we've got partly cloudy skies, a little breezy, 23 degrees with a humidex of 27. Same deal in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. Provincial health officials report 48 new cases of COVID-19 in Ottawa today out of 1,039 new cases across Ontario. This is the Tuesday data. 33 more people in the province have died due to the virus. Elsewhere locally, Leeds Grenville Lanark Health Unit reports no new cases, but has added 19 from previous dates. Public Health Ontario is reporting no new cases in Eastern Ontario, 1 new case in Renfrew County. The local health units update their numbers in the afternoon. Some Ontario residents who got the AstraZeneca vaccine will have a shot at booking a second dose this week. The eligible group is those who got their first AZ shot between March 10th and March 19th during a pilot project at some pharmacies and doctors' offices. The recommended interval between shots is at least 12 weeks, but the second injection is being offered after 10 to this first group in order to make use of 45,000 doses that are set to expire in about a week. The province currently has more than 300,000 additional AstraZeneca doses in stock to continue with a second dose campaign in June. U.S. drug maker Moderna says its COVID-19 vaccine strongly protects kids as young as 12, and it will ask Canadian, American, and other regulators to authorize its use for that age group. Moderna released preliminary findings this morning of its clinical trial involving more than 37,000 children and teens. It says the shot triggered the same signs of immune protection in kids as it does in adults, and the same mild temporary side effects. I'm Sarah Buchan for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
The diversion of a Ryanair flight to Lithuania by Belarus that led to the arrest of an opposition journalist who was a passenger on that plane has sparked international outrage and calls for tough sanctions against Belarus, former Soviet nation. So let's take a look at this story a little more in depth and some of the possible ramifications, consequences of this action with Marcus Kolga, who joins me from the Macdonald Laurier Institute. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
When you heard this news, what was your reaction? Were you surprised at all?
This rise in global transnational repression by these dictators and authoritarians like Alexander Lukashenko, Belarus's president, Vladimir Putin, the regime in China, Iran, shooting down airliners, poisoning critics abroad. So in that context, I suppose it didn't surprise me. The brazen act of falsifying the story about some sort of a bomb on board a civilian European airliner. The fact that Alexander Lukashenko sent a fully armed MiG-29 to intercept this Ryanair 737 and to bring it down in Minsk, all in efforts to capture an independent journalist, a blogger, if you will, a 26-year-old young man.
Yep.
That is shocking that he would put hundreds of lives at risk and, like I said, bring down a commercial jetliner. That was indeed shocking.
Okay. Alexander Lukashenko. Who is he? Tell us about him.
Alexander Lukashenko is the president, or he identifies himself as the president of Belarus. He is, in fact, the totalitarian dictator of Belarus. He's been in power for some nearly 30 years.
Okay.
He's a former collective farm director. This is the Soviet-era system of farming whereby there were no independent farmers allowed. They all ran these collective farms, and usually the directors of them were real strong men associated with the Soviet regime and with the secret police and such. So he's been in power and has held on to power for nearly 30 years. There was an election last August, or an election I should put in quotation marks, whereby he remarkably won again. after those 30 years. And following that election, I think, it seemed that the Belarusian people had quite enough of the totalitarian regime that has been running their country. They wanted freedom and democracy like their Western European neighbors. And they took to the streets. And over the past 12 months now, some over 33,000 Belarusians have been arrested for participating in pro-democracy demonstrations across Belarus. 50 of them remain missing. There are many who were killed. There were widespread and continue to be widespread reports of pretty barbaric torture in the prisons in Minsk. And all of this is being done by Alexander Lukashenko with the support, I should mention, of Vladimir Putin, Russia's president. And there doesn't seem any end to it in sight at the current moment. And so, unfortunately for the Belarusian people, they're living in extremely dark times at the moment without very, very much hope.
The journalist, the reporter, blogger, Roman Pratasevich, I believe I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but okay. Tell me a little bit more about him.
So Roman Pratasevich was a founder of a independent media channel based on social media called Nexta. Over the past 12 months and longer, independent media has been pretty much non-existent in Belarus. The Lukashenko regime doesn't tolerate independent voices. It certainly doesn't tolerate criticism. And so when the pro-democracy protests started up after the falsified election results were released last August, Mr. Protasevich's platform that he helped found in Nexta was really critical in allowing Belarusians, just Belarusian everyday citizens, to communicate with each other. So, as I mentioned, it's a social media-based platform. It's on the Telegram social media platform. And what Nexta allows for is for Belarusians who have participated in protests, who are seeing human rights abuses, to take photos of them, videotape them, and send them to Nexta. And they pool these sort of crowdsourced news reports, images, and videos onto their platform. And in the absence of any other independent media, Nexta was critically important for informing Belarusians of what was really happening on the streets during those protests, and certainly over the past 12 months. And, this latest, hijacking and kidnapping of Mr. Protasevich demonstrates really how powerful and threatening independent media and the Nexta platform have been to the Lukashenko regime. So that's who Roman Protasevich is.
Okay, so he has appeared on this video saying, "Yes, I organized these protests and I'm being treated well." What do you think? Propaganda, state propaganda, right? What do you think?
The leader of the, de facto leader of the Belarusian opposition, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, yesterday basically said that there's no doubt that this young 26-year-old blogger was being tortured after being detained. This is what the regime does. If you look at Roman Protasevich's face in that video, it's clearly bruised. He doesn't look well. His father posted a video this morning claiming that Belarusian authorities had moved him due to a quote-unquote heart condition. He was otherwise a very healthy young man. So what we saw in that video was, quite frankly, there's no doubt that it was a forced confession. It was not legitimate. He was told to do that, and this is part of the process, the repressive process of the Lukashenko regime.
Okay. So the European Union has imposed sanctions against Belarus. It's banned the country's airlines from using the airspace and airports of the EU. What is your what are your thoughts on the international reaction to this action from Belarus?
Well, it's been fairly swift. The fact that these European countries have banned their airlines from using transiting Belarusian airspace is a good move. Canada should be doing the same thing. But otherwise, I would say the Western reaction at this current moment seems like it's, again, they're just going back to their sliding scale of outrage, making a statement, and then, my fear is that they're going to forget about this incident in a week's time. And so what we really need to be doing, and should have been doing a long time ago with these sorts of regimes, is introducing some form of consequences for their behavior, a cost to it. Right now, Vladimir Putin can go around the world poisoning whomever he wants in any country that he chooses. Yep. There are some targeted sanctions that are applied, and that's fine. But all in all, the cost of behaving in this sort of oppressive behavior is very low. It's non-existent. And so what the Western world needs to start doing is imposing costs in order to deter this sort of behavior. Because right now, they're acting, these regimes, like Lukashenko, like Putin, like China, are acting with complete impunity. And they will continue doing so until we say no, and say no with some sort of meaningful consequences.
Thank you, Marcus Kolga. Nice to hear from you on our program today.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on.
Marcus Kolga, international award-winning documentary filmmaker, journalist, digital communications strategist, and one of the leading voices in this country on Russian, Central, and Eastern European issues. The Prime Minister speaking right now.
Autour de la table auront l'occasion de partager leur expérience de ce qui fonctionne bien à travers le pays. À ce propos, pendant qu'on rouvre graduellement, c'est important de continuer de faire attention. Le nombre de nouveaux cas doit baisser le plus possible. On est tous heureux de voir les restrictions s'assouplir là où c'est sécuritaire de le faire, mais on doit rester responsable. Tout le monde doit continuer de faire sa part. Il faut continuer de respecter les consignes locales de santé publique. Et évidemment, il faut se faire vacciner quand c'est notre tour. Si on fait tout ça ensemble, on va réussir à avoir un bien meilleur été. On va pouvoir voir nos amis sur les
Let's leave that. The Prime Minister's news conference, anything big comes out of that, we'll let you know. And when we come back, a look at some of the week's top business stories, local business stories. David Sali will join us from the Ottawa Business Journal on the Rob Snow Show here on City News.
I'm blessed to be married to someone who is a scientist and spent a lot of time following what was happening over in China ahead of time. So he did give us the heads up that this was coming. Not that we believed him right off the bat, but when it did happen very, very quickly, we were prepared. We had hand sanitizer and we were set up to not close our doors. So we locked the kitchen down at Wellington Street, but we left this kitchen open. We put in protocols immediately. We only allowed our very small crew of 4 or 5 people in at the time. No deliveries were allowed to come in or out of the building without, they just weren't allowed in and out of the building. So we met them at the loading dock and had very strict protocols in place right away. We had masks and hand sanitizer and the whole thing. So we're very lucky from that perspective, and we're able to, learn as we went as far as doing small, individually packed caterings, the frozen soup program, food for the Ottawa mission. So we didn't have to close the kitchen and then learn how to reopen it. We just were able to modify and shift as we needed to. Because of our partnership with the Ottawa mission, we were able to very quickly help support them. They were able to send us some product and some supplies, so it wasn't a burden on our business, and we were able to supply the staffing and the packaging to help produce that when they needed it the most. And we produced about 1,400 meals a week to complement their meals, and we started our soup program right away. We realized very quickly that there was a need in the community to get together and all work together, not only to support local, but also just to support all the people that were suddenly in a position of, being locked down and not being able to get out. So by starting that soup program, our community, our clients got online and started making donations for the soups, and we were able to produce the soups and get them back out to people that needed it. We're right now currently making 150 liters of soup per week, but we've made, I would say, 5,000 or 6,000, easily since the pandemic, probably more. I'd have to do the math but lots. I think everybody in the city has to be very aware of how blessed we were to have great weather this summer and people were able to get out and about, and that's going to shift. So we do have to be much more aware of who our most vulnerable is, and I really think we have to work together as groups. There are so many organizations in the city that are doing something and contributing and working together, and I think it doesn't matter who, but see what you can do to just step up and help them, whatever it is, whether it's driving or delivering food, or someone has extra zucchini in their garden, or if they can afford to donate some money to any of these organizations. I just think we all have to work together. We're smarter and wiser than we were the first time.
Opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
David Sali is back with us for a look at some big local business stories. He's with the Ottawa Business Journal. Good morning, David. Welcome back.
Good morning, Rob. Yes.
Well, it's great to hear from you. I'm looking at your story from a few days ago. Developer proposes hotel, 22-story apartment tower for Byward Market Site, former Shopify headquarters. So this is kind of like York, George Street area, and there is a heritage kind of warehouse type building right now. And people would be very familiar with this building. They would exactly know what this building is. I don't know if I'm really crazy about what they have planned for the top of it, but tell us about it. Go ahead, tell us about it.
Well, Rob, yeah, as you say, this is a very familiar building. I think most people, who've been in the market would recognize it. It's 126 York Street. It is it's more than 100 years old. It's called the Major Building. It was built in 1913. It used to be a warehouse. Kind of a great example of the Beaux-Arts style if you're into architecture, and it's so it is quite a cool looking building. And it's been home to many businesses over the years since it was converted from a warehouse, including, yes, Shopify. That was when Shopify was just a young up and coming e-commerce company. It spent several years at 126 York. Today, you've got Cavuto Solutions, another software company in there. Linebox Studio, that's Andrew Reeves' architecture firm that designed the Shopify headquarters on Elgin, a very trendy firm. It's in there. So it's about 60,000 square feet, and it's been bought, that land and adjoining property at 151 George Street, which is a parking lot right now. That site, 1.3 acres roughly. Yeah. It's been bought by a Montreal developer called Mint, and they are planning. They've got a couple of properties in town already. They've got other plans as well in the downtown core, but they're proposing to turn the Heritage Building into a hotel. So that would have that would have 214 suites. And then you're talking about. They're also proposing a 22-story apartment high-rise on George Street, so behind the warehouse, and it's going to be attached in sort of a stepped series of new floors that kind of step back gradually, like stairs almost, to attach to the new building, which would be 22 stories and would have about 280 apartments. Rental apartments in there.
Oh, rental apartments. Okay.
So an interesting design. Yeah, they would be rental units. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, it basically looks like they're taking an apartment building and slapping it on top of a heritage building. I mean, that's what it looks like. It's what it looks like.
I know what you mean. And that's the idea of the stepped back floors. It's sort of, they wanted to have some sort of a transition between the heritage building and the new building. I mean, it's not, maybe the design's not everyone's cup of tea, and who knows, that could change as well. You know how these things go. I mean, the rendering that you see in the initial development application is often not what the final product turns out to be. But I think the key thing here is you've got this Montreal company that's that's sort of starting to make a move into Ottawa. I talked to the owner of RIMAP on Friday, Mark Verratti, and he was saying, he loves Ottawa. He thinks it's a very underrated city from a development perspective, and says, stay tuned because we've got more big things we're going to announce soon. They've got other projects on the go or already completed. They have an apartment building on Bronson, near Bronson and Gloucester, that's 19 stories, 250 units. That's just about ready to rent. They're already, the site's open. You can take virtual tours and whatnot and start renting on that, and that'll be open this summer. They also own, or they're also in the process of building a Marriott, an AC Hotels by Marriott brand on Rideau Street, right near 201 Rideau. So that's a 208 room hotel, and that's already under construction. They hope that'll be open by 2023, and they own the where the LCBO is on the corner of Rideau Street and King Edward.
Yeah.
They own that property.
Oh, they own that property.
In partnership with Westdale Properties of Toronto. Yes, they bought that about 4 years ago, and so right now the LCBO still has a long-term lease there.
Right.
But when that expires, they're going to build something else, likely another multi-residential project there. And,
oh, really?
And
okay.
Brady promises more to come from Ottawa.
More to come.
So, yeah.
Okay, that is very interesting. Especially the Rideau and King Edward LCBO. I mean, that's a big, busy LCBO store, and it'll be interesting if it becomes it's not going to happen anytime soon, but you say they've slated it as this is going to be a future development site for us. So that'll be interesting. Okay.
Absolutely. It is listed as a future development site.
Yeah. And that parking lot next to this one here on York Street, right next to this Heritage building, I mean, there just aren't many privately run parking lots in the Byward Market anymore. If you walked around and you compared it to what was there 10 years ago, just the availability of parking in Ottawa, it's becoming very scarce. I mean, if you don't basically live in the Byward Market, it's becoming increasingly difficult to find a parking spot in the Byward Market. People say, well, we'll have a carless Byward Market. It's kind of going that way, to tell you the truth. There's going to be the city.
In some ways, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's another interesting trend too. Now, beer. So from trendy urban real estate to craft beer. What's the latest with the Kitchissippi Beer Company?
Yeah, well, Kitchissippi Beer, of course, a well-known local brand. I'm sure most of our audience out there has had a Hell or High Water or one of their other 1855, one of their other brands, and so they've been around for about 11 years. Really developed a great local following, and so I talked to the owner, Paul Meek, last week because he says things haven't been as frothy, so to speak, during the pandemic as they had been before. So he's looking, like everyone, to tap into new revenue streams. Well, he started a new retail outlet called Bottles and Cans Beverage Company that's now selling out of their Robertson Road brewery. And it basically, the focus is on craft beers from other parts of Ontario right now that you can't find easily at the LCBO or the beer store. So stuff that, from smaller breweries, mostly in the Toronto, Hamilton areas right now that Paul likes and wanted to kind of introduce to the Ottawa market. So he opened that last week and said things were already the interest even before it opened was quite strong. People had heard about it and were making a lot of inquiries. So it sounds like he's hoping that's going to become a real nice little extra revenue stream for them, and eventually he's going to add wines from Prince Edward County and hopefully beers from other parts of the country. and perhaps even wines from outside the country. So he really sees a lot of potential for this, so that even once business returns to normal, quote unquote, after the pandemic, this is going to be an additional revenue stream for him. And so he really thinks it could be a good extra business for him.
Yeah, what's really, and if it's a Kitchissippi story, it's probably a craft brewery story. The sales for Kitchissippi beer, according to this story, I mean, they lost about half their revenue because sales to bars and restaurants just not happening, right? Because of all the shutdowns. So
just not exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I liked. Under provincial law, alcohol not produced on site can only be sold for takeout with food. To that end, bottles and cans, this new endeavor has a small selection of chips as well as ice cream from Carp Custom Creamery. So there you go. They're always very entrepreneurial, always looking for ways to get around things. So that's very good. David, I thank you very much for joining us today. Yeah, I'm all of a sudden I'm craving a stout with a nice creamy vanilla right now. So maybe they could stick it all in a cone for me. Whatever, I'll take it. Thank you, David. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye-bye. Yep, from the Ottawa Business Journal, that is David Sali. And that's it for the Rob Snow Show for today. We're back tomorrow, Wednesday, right after the 9 o'clock news, your political fix. We'll do that tomorrow, along with Valley View with Bruce McIntyre from the Eganville Leader. The new news coming up next. This is City News.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV.